Yes. She's happy to send us. Yeah. No, she's right, Bert? No,
Sharon.
she's got another big hand.
Good afternoon, everyone. I open this meeting on the 17th of December 2005, and I welcome councillors and members of the public in the gallery and staff. Can I remind people to put their mobile phones off or on flight mode or similar, please? This meeting will be live streamed via Teams and webinar facilities. Recordings of council meetings or parts thereof cannot be copied, recorded, reproduced, reissued, or transmitted without the prior written consent of the General Manager. The meeting is being recorded and will be made publicly available on the council's website. Persons attending the meeting should refrain from making any defamatory statements. 2 is acknowledgement of country. Council acknowledges that this meeting is being held on the traditional lands of the Wiradjuri, Gundungurra and Darug people and respects the history and culture of the elders both past and present. 3 is the prayer and Life Church Oberon with taking the chair. Please stand.
Heavenly Father, thank you that we live in such an amazing town and area. Lord, it's so beautiful and we do appreciate it every day. Lord, I thank you for the community here that's so supportive and cares for each other. We've just seen that with a lot of the Christmas activities that have happened. So we thank you for that. And Lord, I pray that tonight as the councillors meet, that you would give them wisdom and strength to make the decisions that they need to make in the best interests of the people in this community. We pray that everybody would have a safe, happy and holy Christmas.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
The record of attendance, I believe we don't have any apologies this evening. Declarations of interest by council. Does anyone have a pecuniary or non-pecuniary declaration of interest? No declarations of interest. Thank you. Move to presentation 6. There are no presentations. 7 is questions from the public. Public gallery is open to members of the community. Communities to be given the opportunity to ask questions at commencement of the council meeting. And the mayor is to ask questions from the gallery. Members of the public wishing to address council are permitted to do so, providing the following guidelines are adhered to. 1, the person asking the question at the council meeting must clearly state their name and what capacity they are acting. 2, if the person asking the question is acting as another person, the organisation's agent, they must advise council if they have the prior consent authority. Questions from the public is not an opportunity for debate with elected representatives or staff. It is an opportunity for the community to ask a question in relation to an issue or put a point of view relating to that issue that may be causing interest or concern. Due to time constraints, a time frame of 3 minutes per speaker is allocated. All questions and comments must be directed through me as the mayor. Are there any questions from the public? Yes. Please come forward. Thank you.
Good evening, councillors. My name's Emma Jardine. I'm the director of the Oberon Chamber Music Festival. I wanted to say thank you for the opportunity to speak today and thank you for your ongoing support of the Oberon Chamber Music Festival. I want to start by expressing my deep gratitude for the $7,000 we got from the Section 356 grant. It really helped to make this year's festival possible. I'd just like to speak a little bit about the festival's success and the community impact that had. So the 2024 Oberon Chamber Music Festival was an extraordinary success. Across the weekend, 874 people attended the festival. It's an increase of 30% from last year. And I think this growth reflects the enthusiasm and the excitement that the festival has sparked both in visitors and locals. It was really wonderful to see Oberon alive with music and buzzing with energy, from the school kids' laughter and the educational concert to the families and locals enjoying the community gala. There was a real sense of joy and togetherness and just a really fantastic atmosphere in the town. Visitors and residents alike commented that there was such a special atmosphere. It really brought people together. We were sharing music and conversation and a genuine sense of community. On the first night, the Friday the 22nd, 140 members of the Oberon community came to the free community gala concert that you helped to fund. It was at the Malachi Gilmore Hall. It was a vibrant evening. It celebrated what music can bring to a town like Oberon. Connection, inspiration, shared experience. Earlier that day, we had hosted a free educational concert for 270 students from Oberon Public School, St Joseph's Primary and Oberon High School, combined with the residents of the Columbia Nursing Home. And we presented a concert about Tommy the Trout, and we saw smiles and laughter and everything beautiful that music can bring. And it's something that doesn't come to Oberon often. I'd just like to say how the festival would have impacted the local businesses and the tourism of Oberon. So this year's festival brought significant benefits to the local businesses. We surveyed all the ticket holders who bought tickets to the paid concerts of the festival, which were on the Saturday and the Sunday. There were 4 performances. And the results speak volumes. 85% of attendees travelled from other parts of New South Wales or interstate. 75% stayed overnight in Oberon, supporting local accommodation venues, cafes, pubs, and shops. 77% explored local attractions like Mayfield Gardens, Tarana markets, antique shops, and local eateries. One attendee said, "We visited Mayfield Gardens, stayed at the Highlands Motel, dined at the pub, and enjoyed shopping in the local op shops." Another commented, "The festival encouraged us to visit Tarana and spend time in town buying provisions for our Airbnb and enjoying coffee in local cafes." The feedback we received from the audience was overwhelmingly positive. 93% of audience members gave the festival a 5 out of 5 star rating. 100% said they would recommend the festival to their friends and family, and 100% agreed that the festival is extremely important to the Oberon community. This tells us that the Oberon Chamber Music Festival is not only bringing cultural life to the region, but it's making people feel connected and proud and inspired to show everything that Oberon has to offer. While the festival was an incredible success, I do want to share the reality of what it took to deliver these concerts, especially the free community events. The free community events cost $15,000 to put on. The council's generous $7,000 helped a lot, but we still faced a shortfall of $8,000. To ensure that the festival went ahead, Lucy East, the owner of the Malachi, and myself did not take any administration fees for the months of work involved in organising the entire festival. We personally covered all the marketing costs and essential expenses like piano hire. In addition, the Malachi Gilmore Hall generously waived all the hall hire fees for the entire festival, which was a huge contribution.
We are up to 3 minutes, so.
I'm nearly done.
Really.
We're so proud of what we achieved this year, and we think the festival brought enormous value to Oberon. However, it's important to acknowledge that absorbing this shortfall really stretched our festival, and to continue to deliver these incredible experiences, we need to find a more sustainable model. The free community events, while incredibly worthwhile, are not possible without adequate funding, and we can't continue covering the shortfall ourselves. This year's success was only possible because of Malachi Gilmore Hall's generosity and because Lucy and I personally absorbed the remaining costs. But we ask Council to consider this when deciding on its support for next year's 356 funding. Your $7,000 grant this year did allow us to make significant progress, and we're very grateful for that. However, additional funding is essential to ensure the festival is sustainable and continues to benefit Oberon's residents and businesses. Looking ahead to 2025, the response to this year's festival has been so strong that we're already planning the 2025.
5 minutes.
I've got this much to go.
An extension is doing. I'll sit down.
Thank you. We're already planning the 2025 festival. It's set for the 21st to the 23rd of November 2025. And with continued support, we can continue building on the excitement and momentum of this year, bringing even more visitors to town, boosting the local economy, and continuing to enrich the lives of Oberon residents. The festival also has a far-reaching impact beyond the weekend itself. Thanks to the Australian Digital Concert Hall, the 2024 festival was professionally recorded and will be streamed in January 2025 to an expected audience of over 2,000 households across Australia. This further raises Oberon's profile as a vibrant cultural destination and highlights what makes this town so special. So I want to close by thanking Oberon Council for its support. Special thanks to Deputy Mayor Katie Graham, who attended the festival, and Oberon Council Section 356 contribution really helped us to bring music to the schools and nursing home and the wider community, creating connection and joy and moments that people remember for years to come. We know this festival is making a real difference, not just in creating cultural opportunities, but in bringing life and energy to Oberon. And with your continued support, we can ensure that the festival remains sustainable, continues to grow, and keeps delivering these benefits to the community and beyond. Thank you.
Thank you. We have another question.
Just introduce yourself.
Well, my name's Lee Hanlon. I live down at Tarana, and I've got a petition running for Tarana to join Oberon Council area. I've just got a few questions here that I will submit to.
Well, I think if you leave them to us, we will come back to you on them.
Yeah.
I have heard about the petition, as I think most councillors probably have. We are aware of it, yes.
So
If you leave those with us, we'll come back to you.
yeah,
Do you want to say anything else or just?
well, just the petition is that we would probably be better off in Oberon Council area because you have a lot better roads. Let's see.
Thank you for your confidence in our council. And I'd like to say we're enamoured at the idea that you would want to join us, so we're very pleased about that. And if you've got some questions, if you would give them to us, we will try and get back to you as soon as possible. But thank you very much for coming.
That's all I want to say, just to let you know that.
So if you bring the questions up. If you haven't got them typed, I suppose, or.
No, that's just.
I'll hand them, I'll give them to General Manager Sharon at the stage, we can go back, and we'll come back with answers on those.
Yeah, okay.
Obviously, there are a lot of hurdles to go through if there is to be a change of council boundaries, as you'll appreciate.
Yeah.
So we'll consider those questions and come back.
Well, that's why I've got the petition up and running now, so at least if it does work, it works, if it doesn't, well.
No, that's fine. Thanks very much for coming.
Okay, not a problem.
Other questions? Yes, Michael.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Cantaris, a ratepayer and resident of Oberon. I just wanted to take this opportunity because I was away when the elections were happening, and I was able to put in a postal vote. So I did my community duty and did vote. But I just wanted to take this opportunity to congratulate the new council members and also congratulate the existing council members that have returned back to council, and to also congratulate the mayor and the deputy mayor for their new roles in the council. I also wanted to say that over the last several years, I think our community has always been challenged over the last several years, and particularly. But I just want to say that I think that these challenges are going to be exponential in the coming future. And I hope that you guys, along with the community, will do what is best for all of us. And on that note, I just want to say congratulations and thank you for what you are doing.
Thank you, Michael. I think I can speak on behalf of the whole council that we will certainly do our very best to do the best that we can. Thank you. Any other questions? Sorry, over there.
Good evening all. And my name is Veronica Stanvick. I live in Loadside. I've done since 2011. regarding the business papers and agenda from the previous council meeting on the 12th, I think it was, of November, there was a State of the Shire report, and there was one mention of my favourite topic, fluoridation. So on page 17, it mentions that fluoridation remains a strongly debated issue with a number of responses for either for or against. And when we were debating whether or not to put it in 2018, 2014, there was talk of a health study associated with this New South Wales health measure. So where is the study?
I'm not aware, so I'll have to take that on notice.
Okay. My other question is, I'd like to know how often the water is actually tested to ensure that the 0.7 to 1.1 milligram per litre of fluoridated concentrations maintained
Spent daily.
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 May I have access to the test reports, please?
We can publish it on the website, so we can't be providing water quality data like microbiological and chemistry that is done weekly and monthly. Happy to add the fluoridation data to that as well.
Okay, and that's on the website currently.
No, we're not doing it daily. We'll do it on intervals on a period in the past. I think that's what we can do.
So what?
Yeah, monthly, something like that. We
So monthly, and it'll cover the daily reports.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, so that's available without having to ask questions. Has the dosing equipment and the actual testing equipment, has that been certified under the Measurements Act?
sorry for fluoridation.
Yes.
It gets calibrated regularly. It gets calibrated regularly. So there's quite.
Has it been
how-
calibrated by
how-
someone?
Fluoride only.
Has it been measured, has it been calibrated according to the Measurements Act?
So normally we get someone external in to calibrate it, but happy to look into it further, how we do it here.
I just want to know if it actually adheres to the.
Take it on notice and we'll come back to you with how it's calibrated. It is calibrated, but if you want, who calibrates it all. we'll have to
Okay.
come back to it.
All right. In relation to 10.3
Is that tonight or last week?
tonight.
Yep.
The impact analysis on the proposed wind turbines. I note the previous meeting, the motion was put that that the project should adhere to the development control plan, part 0, wind power generation. Section 0.6.4 states under the objectives to restrict development to rural 1A zone only. So my question is, what is the zoning of the forestry court land?
Well, the zoning of forestry, it's crown land.
So it's not zoned 1A. So according to that control plan,
That's correct.
they can't adhere to your control plan.
Veronica, as you're aware.
Yeah.
The approval of the wind farms falls into state significant. So council's development control plan, which you're referring to, 2005, does not have to be complied with by the proponent. And in fact, they have advised us that they are complying with the state guidelines, not our development control plan. So if I can put that in context, does that answer the
Yes,
question?
that's great, but I do believe that councillor O'Connor was mentioning that they should adhere to that development control plan.
Absolutely.
No,
No.
there's
No,
no
no.
point of
So-
order, Mr.
So what
Chair.
we've said is councillor Connor raised a motion, which was approved by this council, that they should, right?
Yep.
But under the state legislation, they are not absolutely required to. What we're saying is that they should, but we can't force them to.
Okay, but they can't anyway because it's zone crown land.
They
So
are.
it's just, it's a ridiculous concept.
I'm sorry
for Bill. So through the chair, a number of years ago, the Forestry Act was changed by the government at the time to allow for value add industry to be included on forestry owned land, which is the catalyst to see this project.
Yeah, and you'll That was the previous government.
And it overrides anything in our development.
That's right.
Okay, so so I guess the question I'm asking is the council's wind power generation DCP basically is irrelevant.
It is advisory only.
Okay,
Yes.
all right,
And we have asked them whether they'll comply with it. They have come back and said they are complying with the state guidelines, which basically means if you infer between the lines, that no, unless they decide to hold it.
there's just one other question I'd like to direct through the chair to councillor O'Connor. Are you still on the committee of Oberon against wind towers?
Well, I think, generally we take questions on notice where it goes to a councillor.
Okay,
In this instance, I am able to, but I think it might be more appropriate if councillor O'Connor came back to you.
okay, that's fine.
If
Absolutely
you're
fine.
happy to.
Committee
You're not on Oberon against wind towers anymore? Okay, and not a member?
member.
You are still a member. Okay, well, that's fine.
Anything else, Ray?
My 3 minutes. probably-
You are, it is up.
Thank you.
I'll ask for extension of time.
Well, it's second. All right, I'll second.
All right, just a couple little quick ones. The previous extraordinary meeting, the Australia Day celebrations for the, I've forgotten the name of the delegate or the ambassador, plus the staff, plus the people who win the awards is going to be held at Waldara.
That's correct.
Waldara doesn't cater, so it'd be catered.
Yes,
So what's the estimated cost of this event?
it's within our budget for it.
Okay. And what's the budget to train people to make a road that actually holds together?
I don't understand the relevance of the two.
The relevance of the question is, I'm questioning how council spends its money. I understand everything is budgeted and allocated, but why can't we allocate more money to actually have people who know how to make a road?
We allocate a considerable amount of money, 70% of our budget to roads, and we get grants. If you want any further information, we can provide it, but that's the situation. 70% of this council's budget approximately goes to roads.
Okay. I've been coming and asking questions since 2014, as the only other person who's been here every time I've been here will attest to. And roads has always been an issue. Council getting back to people has always been an issue. And that has not changed. And the council papers for last November had the wrong councillors listed in the agenda, which I thought was pretty sloppy.
That was raised and it was changed.
Yep. And the other last quick one, whose idea was it to hold this Christmas Day celebration here in Oberon on the same day as the markets?
What?
Oberon markets at the showground.
The markets are on the day that the Christmas celebration was supposed to be held.
What, the spectacular?
Yeah.
Well, was the committees, and as I understand, the markets are the day and the spectaculars at night. Huh?
And also just.
So all the market people are going to come down after the markets and set up down here?
Yes, that's right.
Okay, all right, thank you.
All right, any further questions? Yes.
Hello, all councillors. My name's Corey DeMarco. I've got a DA application in for a bike park out of the Bello accommodation, weekend stays. I understand it's been full for today's meeting. I was told that the reason for pulling it was because of boundaries not understood or roads not understood, which I don't understand why. That's been on the plan since day one. No one's changed that. So I'd like to know, basically, I'd like to know where is it going? Like my life is on hold. And I'd just like to know what is happening. How long is this going to take before I can actually keep on living? Like none of us are getting any older, any younger. It'd be nice if we were getting younger, but we're not.
No,
I'd like my life to go forward.
absolutely. Understand the issue, and we'll come back to you. I understand it was a little more complicated than what you indicated, involved Crown land. So we will come back to you on that.
I contacted Crown. I've had a lot to do with it because I bought the road from my border straight through my property. I spoke to the regional manager, Mr. Pearson, I can't remember his first name, Steve Pearson. And he said to me, he sent me an email, which I forwarded that on, and it states that there is no I do not need permission to go on a Crown Road for access or egress. Any person, Joe Blow, anybody, he said his exact words were, anybody can use that Crown Road. I have no hold over it. It's the Crown Road. It is not your road. And I was like completely understanding of that because I knew that from day one. He did say, well, I didn't know by it when I didn't know I could. But anyway, that was my step up. But anyway, the other question I have is, I don't know if I can or you guys can, but my shed, I've got all my stuff out on the ground, tarps, and it's just everything's getting destroyed. Is there any reason why my shed cannot go forward? Just, I would like to build a shed.
We'll get back to you on that.
Gary has mentioned before, like, I understand, I'm not dismissing what you said to me at all.
No,
But I don't want to build a smaller shed and I can't afford to build 2 sheds. I just want to build 1 shed. So that's it. Thank you very much.
I think the general manager has said he will convene a meeting with you tomorrow
Okay.
to go through the issue.
Yep.
And in particular in relation to the shed. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, so we are aware of the circumstances.
Thank you.
Mr. Mayor, can we bring item 13.2 forward in the meeting,
Are you
please?
seconding that? No.
I just want to ask a question.
13.2 has been pulled at the moment.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, we've got late notification. I'd like
it's in
to
my
put an
agenda.
urgent notice forward that we don't pull it.
It's got in here, it says third.
Well, it's been pulled, you don't put it up to.
Can
Okay,
can I put an urgent notice forward to actually hear that? So I didn't agree with pulling it.
That's right. 13.2 was being pulled by the general manager because he needed more information, and the agenda's been put together without that now.
Why can't councillors vote on that and elect to hear that?
Under local government act, the agenda is put together by the general.
It's a bit late notice.
Question.
Yes,
Mr. Mayor, through you, I've just got a question for our Director of Corporate Services. With regard to Emma Jardine, the lady who gave the first presentation, maybe if we get back to her and discuss the possibilities of broadening the base of funding.
I think.
Councillors are not allowed to ask questions in question time.
I thought you were asking a question in relation to the last one. I think that, I understand what you're saying. Could I suggest an email might be appropriate anyway? And yeah, I understand what you're saying, but I think an email at this stage is probably best because we actually question. Right, another question? Any other questions? Right, item 8 is confirmation of minutes. There are a number of them. Extraordinary meeting of the 7th of November 2024. The recommendation is the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on the 7th of November 2024 be confirmed. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Trembath? Councillor Graham? Councillor Trembath?
I'm happy to move it.
As per the recommendation. Anyone speaking against it? If not, I put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. 8.2, this is the ordinary meeting of the 12th of November 2024. The recommendation is that the minutes of the ordinary meeting held on the 12th of November 2024 be confirmed. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Trembath, seconder, please. Councillor Hayden. Councillor.
Maybe that's further recommendation. I'm happy to second with any changes that were required.
Okay. Any further comments? Not, I put the motion. All in favour? 8.3, the extraordinary meeting of 26th of November 2024. The recommendation is the minutes of the extraordinary meeting held on 26th November 2024 be confirmed. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Hayden, Councillor Trembath, thank you.
Happy to move as is with any brief changes that need to be done. Happy to second.
Any further comment on this motion? All in favour? Carried unanimously. Go to item 9, the Melbourne report. Just before going to the recommendation, I would note that the second last item under meetings, I wasn't able to attend the 9th of December 2024 Black Springs Community Association meeting. I did attend the 11th of November one. Okay, with that change, the recommendation is the report item 9.01 is received as information. Can we move it, please? Councillor Hayden.
I'm the seconder.
Oh, all right, I'll
Sure.
move it. You'll second it. Yes. Sorry. Okay. Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I'm happy to second the report. I did note that in your minutes, that councillor McCarthy went as a representative for the Black Springs Public School presentation. Thank you for that, councillor McCarthy. I just wanted to say that I wasn't aware that that was actually on. I was approached by the secretary of the SCA to ask why I wasn't there, and I actually didn't know. So I'm wondering if, Mr Mayor, it might be appropriate if there are school presentations in the village areas that councillors may not have seen any notification for, if you wouldn't mind forwarding so that those in the area could still attend. Thank you, and nothing further to add.
Thank you, councillor Hayden. Any further discussion on the mayoral minute and report? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Passed unanimously. Go to 10.1 concrete tank relocation. The motion is that council use funds from the Rural Development Community Facility account to fund concrete tank relocation from the Colin Black Springs site. You moving this, councillor McCarthy?
Oh, I'll move it if I get to second it.
Councillor Hayden, councillor O'Connor? Yes.
I will, thank you.
Sorry, yeah, councillor Hayden.
No, I've already seconded it.
I thought,
It was a bit, yeah. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank
You could certainly speak.
Mr Mayor, this tank sits there obsolete. Doesn't form part of Christo's landscape plan that they have down O'Connell. It was supplied originally for the drought fund that supplied water for community. So it would be going to a location of the same ilk out at Black Springs. This present tank has been superseded by the green tank that's down there. They just need funds to relocate it. Staff think they can just relocate it with a crane and our low loader. And it just needs funds to do relocate it if you want to go ahead with it. Just get another project out of the road and keep going.
Councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'd like to thank councillor McCarthy for his motion that he's put forward to this council. I do recall that there was a period of time, I think it was last year, that we actually had something similar or an agreement, or we had the discussion through works. I can't quite pinpoint it, and I couldn't find it in previous council documents. But the tank, the pad for the tank is already in place out near the bore and the fill site out at Black Springs beside the forestry, the RFS shed on the Black Springs recreation ground. So this motion actually gets something in place to get this tank moved and placed into its position. So I'm happy to second this motion. Thank you.
Councillor Trimmer.
I'd like to, I don't really understand through the chair to councillor McCarthy. I didn't really understand the motion initially, and why it was being put forward, because there wasn't really any sort of information about it. Because I remember at one time you were saying that we should move that up to the water, up in the rec ground, move it up closer to the actual water station in O'Connell. But that's that.
Never.
No?
No, we moved it filling pond up to the fence. So you could go to the standpoint and get filled there.
But just as following on from that,
So
it's a concrete tank. It's high risk of breakage. And I know, and your costings currently are over $4,000, and we still don't have all of the costs for it. And a new poly tank from either Bushman's or Clark delivered would be under $3,000. So I'm not sure. I'm happy that you need a tank.
Could councillor address her comment through you?
I already
She is.
have. I've already checked. So it's more of absolutely something that we should think about, but moving a concrete tank has got high risk to it. And if it breaks, then it's all gone. The cost that you've costed doesn't include the electricity board and I don't know, but it didn't say, it just said removal of redundant electricity board. I'm just saying that better spend of money from the fund that has been identified would be to get them a nice new poly tank. And, you know, the one at O'Connell, maybe it doesn't suit the ground, but it's there now. And, you know, that's not really the main issue. It's about being very good with our finances and spending money, only the money that we need to spend.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, through you. I have moved a couple of concrete tanks in the past from farm to farm. And it's something I'll never do again. It's high risk, usually ends up badly. And given that there's a new amenities block being built, maybe there's an opportunity to tag it on there somewhere, just move it in a short distance, which may still be probable, but and given that you can buy a tank for 2,500, it just seems a waste, not a waste, but not a good spend of money.
Just wanted
So
to
Grady,
ask also, is there a plumbing cost involved that we need to account for in connecting the tank?
I'm sure Councillor McCarthy there will be, but it would be much the same whether it's polythene or concrete, I'm assuming.
If I may,
Yes.
but what do you call it, return?
Well, I was going to ask a couple of questions. I think most of them have been addressed by the questions around here because I actually did cost of polythene. I have had troubles with moving concrete before, so that's similar. Yeah.
The only reason I put it in is because Christo your heritage advisor doesn't want the tank there.
Right.
It's not in being the heritage, so that's why the green tank's been installed there. And Christo's saying that the white tank's got to go because it's not in keeping with the heritage part of O'Connell, so I thought it was a no-brainer. I understand the cost of the tank and the cost of moving it. But, yeah, Christo's saying that the tank shouldn't be there, so anyway.
That your right of reply?
Oh, well, I'll take it on
Oh,
because.
well,
No,
there are a couple other
No,
questions.
that's fine.
Sorry, Councillor Hayden.
Sorry, if I may, could the general manager please check some of the works records, because I do recall this had been discussed, hence why the pad was developed out at Black Springs. In Heritage, Christo did say didn't want the tank. Then we had discussed at council at length that concrete tank was going to be relocated to the pad out at the Black Springs steam pipe to match the other tank because it was identical. So I just wanted to clarify those details in case of any misunderstanding.
Councillor Hayden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just had a question for either the general manager or the director. Just after clarification on what is the Rural Development Community Facility account. Is that one of our Section 7 external reserves? And how much is it?
Through the chair, yes, the community facilities reserve is there.
Yes, it's
It's
a Section 7 one.
Yeah.
But we were just talking about previous Section
711.
7.
Yeah.
Okay, through the chair, there's $36,000. Thank you.
Councillor McCarthy, if this is similar to the one that's at Black Springs, it's a spray concrete, is it, or is it?
That's correct. That's
Yeah,
a thick
which is not as
base.
strong as a solid concrete.
That's right. It's thick base and it's got
Yeah.
some lift and lugs on each side. And one of our staff that's is down there with Cordelia and myself, he seems to think it can be relocated, but I don't. Yeah, this has been identified as not being in your plan. And that's what you get support, but if we don't want to support it, that's fine. I'm happy to lose it, but don't come back and say to something else, it's not heritage listen, because Christo's identified that this white thing is not suitable for the location down there.
Maybe I should ask. Councillor Trimble, you've had a heritage? Have you got a perspective on this from the heritage perspective?
I do, but I also have a perspective from cost
Yeah.
as well, and we have not fully costed this. as I said, I don't have a problem with the tank being put at Black Springs, but it's just climbing and climbing and climbing, and we're possibly going to be at $5,000 out of this fund. There's two sides to it, and we're
Yes.
meant to be sort of a little bit more careful with our finance. We just had a great presentation about how we just don't have enough money. Okay, it's coming out of a fund that's been identified, but if it breaks, what then?
So I suppose, but I do want to address the heritage side. So if we do not move it to Black Springs, and it stays in situ, from a heritage perspective, the Heritage Committee's fine with that. I'm just asking the question because if we don't move,
We can just don't have to paint it in some way to give it a
Councillor Graham,
mural.
Councillor Graham,
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Can't you screen it with some trees so you can't see it?
Yeah.
Wouldn't that be sensible?
Mm.
Yes. That's not what Christo wants.
Well, we might have to think them up.
all right, I think we've discussed this matter enough. Motion that council uses funds from the Rural Development Community Facility account to fund concrete tank relocation from O'Connell to Black Springs site. All in favour? 1, 2, 3. All against?
There was 4.
Oh, sorry, 4. It was you were 4. Sorry. 5 against, I think it is. So the motion was lost. 10.2, land at Glyndawere Avenue. The motion is that council place land, I think it's at 2 Glyndawere Avenue, is it? 34, sorry, 34 Glyndawere Avenue, just so we have a bit more precisely. Formerly unused park up for sale with Oberon real estate agents after installing a 20mm water supply and 1 sewer outlet at lowest point on land. A move for the motion, councillor McCarthy? Oh, sorry. Yes.
I would like to put forward, and I agree with what councillor McCarthy has put forward, that we do need to have a look at this land sale. I have no issue at all with what you're suggesting, but I just think it needs a little bit more detail around the full costs of what this would involve, so that when we do put it up for sale, we do know what we're doing. So my alternate motion is 1, I think I sent it to you, Sharon.
Can I foreshadow the original? Thank you.
Yes.
I think I have it. Just
Okay. So it's approach a real estate agent to obtain 2 appraisals of the property with the playground equipment removed as follows.
So that is the general manager to approach.
The general manager, sorry. I've got written this down. General manager. So you got that bit? Yeah. 1, as is with no sewer connection or water connection installed. And 2, with sewer connection and water connection installed. That's part of A. And B, obtain quote from 1 or more plumbers as required by procurement policy to install the sewer connection and water connection to the property. And C, on the basis of the most cost alternative for council after undertaking A and B, the property be put up for sale at the recommended sale price. The GM one, approach a real estate agent to obtain 2 appraisals of the property with the playground equipment removed as follows, and then 1, as is with no sewer connection and water connection installed. 2, with sewer connection installed. B, and quote from your funders, to install sewer connection. So it's really just to add a little bit more rigor around what we're proposing. I think it's been sitting there for a long time. I get, understand that from Councillor McCarthy noting it was been there since, I think, September 20. So all I'm asking is that we, as again, financially, that we do what we need to do to ensure we get the best possible price.
Do we have a second for the motion? Councillor Graham?
Yeah, I'll second the motion. It just gives us more information and it's very similar to what we did with the block in Tasman Street. I don't know why we wouldn't do that.
Any other speakers on this? Great.
I'd like to speak against the motion as it's put, and I thought under our DCP, we couldn't turn around and have that without a sewer connection in place and access to water. See that there's a lot of time and effort having to go into this to get these reports. I was happy with the original as it stood, but I'm just speaking against the motion as it stands. Thank you.
Councillor McCarthy?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I take on board the comments from the General Manager that this is operational ground. I don't believe it is, in respect that back some time ago, Jacqueline Burns prepared a report to council, and I thought this one was left out, the same as what the League Club was left out. Because if the League Club was being converted to operational ground, we wouldn't be able to sell it like we are.
But Councillor
Just doing a comparison.
Yeah, we're at the stage where I think everyone is agreeing that we should sell it.
Yep.
The problem is, the motion, the alternate motion is all it's saying is, one, we go out, we get an appraisal from real estate agent that says it's better to put the sewer connection on the water, and is it going to be cost effective? It's going to cost us 20,000, and we're going to get 20,000 more for the property. Then is it worth doing? I think we're all in agreement.
Okay.
That's why I think, as Councillor Trevor said, and I don't want to short circuit what she said, but she said, agree with you, basically, we need to get this sold. So let's work out whether it's value for money to put the sewer and the water pipe on.
Okay.
And then come back, and if it's not, just sell it as is. If it is, then we'll do it.
I'm happy with that, but it goes against our DCP.
Correct.
And that's what we're trying, that's why I put it in there.
Yeah.
If it was there, I wouldn't have wasted the biro on footnote things. We have a DCP to set it up that when you buy these blocks, the sewer's connected and the water's connected.
Yeah.
If you want to go against it, whether it's 20 grand one way or the other, it's going to come back to bite us. But
I can't.
we should accept the standard that we've set, and the DCP says that we have the sewer and water connected on the thing. And why I put it in is this a block going to come back to bite us up in Creek Street. And it's an old subdivision. And people are going to say.
But we have set a bit of a precedent because we didn't do that in Tasman Street. We did a similar to this.
Well, we don't know what Damien come up with.
Well, I think.
Point of order, back to business.
No, we don't know what Damien arranged the sale. We didn't know whether that's removed or not.
But it had a similar resolution, as I understand. I don't know. All right, any further discussion? Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. A couple of questions. I had always thought that it was classified as community land, not operational. And I thought that was why we weren't selling it and why we were proposing to develop it internally, because of how difficult it was going to be to reclassify it to operational and then to sell it. So it appears I was mistaken because it says it is operational. And so the first question is it easy to sell operational land? Are there any difficult processes to go through, or can we simply decide by resolution to sell it?
I'll ask the general manager.
Through the chair, there are two classes of land. You're exactly right. Community land can't be sold. Operational land is part of your remit of land that you can buy and sell. The issues around the current block, a little bit more than just that, but it was, Councillor McCarthy was right. Originally it was left off, which is why we had to go through a second amendment some time ago in order to reclassify it as operational.
So it was, but it's been reclassified.
Correct.
Right, thank you. My second question is that I think the idea was that we would develop it ourselves and have a duplex or something along those lines to offer to attract staff. And I'm interested in any comments from the general manager about if we sell the land, are there any concerns about no longer having that opportunity to attract staff?
Thank you for the question, Master Gentleman.
Through the chair, the site is problematic. There is some infrastructure on site that makes it difficult to do what we were trying to do. We've looked at many ways to try and relocate certain infrastructure on that site to make it easier. That's been problematic. But that doesn't mean it's impossible to build on. So council has currently a standing resolution that looks for funding to assist in supporting exactly what in place. But it's up to council whether they want to move in a different direction at one time.
Right. Right reply. Oh, sorry.
It's got a quick question through you to the general manager. The process when council's selling land, using an agent, using two agents, what's the process? Just so I can understand.
Two agents, isn't it?
Through the chair, we're small and we generally give both agents an opportunity. In the past, what we've done is compared and contrasted and took the best option.
Under procurement. Yeah. All right, any further discussion? If not, I put this alternative motion. All in favour? 8 in favour and councillor Hayden against. Thank you. Go to 10.3, social and economic impact analysis of proposed Oberon's wind farm project. Yes,
to foreshadow the motion, Mr. Mayor.
You've spoken now, you're putting an alternate up or foreshadowing it? After that, I'm a bit confused.
Oh, sorry, foreshadowing it.
So we go ahead with the current one?
Yeah.
And then you will put a foreshadow. So I'll read the current motion and the mover will move it and the seconder, and then you'll foreshadow, and you'll foreshadow an amendment or something. Right. Sorry, because you raised it then, I thought you needed an alternate. You were putting an alternate motion, so I'm sorry about that. The motion is that Oberon Council seek funding to prepare a social and economic impact analysis of proposed wind farm projects in our local government area. Prospective funding sources include, I'll use 1, New South Wales Government grants, 2, Stromlo Tag Energy Forestry Corporation. And that the social and economic impact analysis would look specifically at the social and economic impacts of wind farm projects in the Oberon community, businesses and council. Councillor O'Connor, you're moving it as seconder. Councillor Tremblay, Councillor O'Connor.
For you, with this motion, I table this motion, social and economic impact analysis of proposed Oberon wind farm projects during the 2025 year, and according to Pine's project timeline, consultation will commence regarding a voluntary planning agreement. BPAs are negotiated between respective council and the developer, in this case, Oberon Council and Stromlo Tag Energy. The purpose of the VPA being twofold. 1, attempt to offset the social and economic impact of the project on the community. Number 2, provide compensation in lieu of developer contributions, which would have usually been made by the developer to the council when the council is the consent authority. Now, for the council to negotiate, they'll need to know the social and economic impacts, or if it made cost benefits to our Oberon community. At the end of the day, if these projects go ahead, it's important that we're not worse off. There are other councils in New South Wales which have raced ahead, negotiated VPA, not understanding the significant cost involved. And then, after they've negotiated VPA, then gone and got a social and economic impact analysis, and they're in horror, okay? There's also councils who've negotiated VPA and other errors have occurred. So you have to do a lot of due diligence, a lot of consideration. Without an assessment, our plateau, mate, this may be a little bit, some of the things that I've got a chart there about tonnages and road usages, but not only that, where there's been a project in the past, in most cases, because of the volume that's on the roads, they've reduced the road to 80 kilometres, say, in some projects. So Bathurst to Oberon not only would have an increased road usage, they'd have an 80 kilometre, potentially an 80 kilometre speed limit during movements. So I put this motion forward really just on the basis that we do need to go out and get an understanding of our costs before we negotiate. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I'd like to second the motion and thank Councillor O'Connor for the detail that he provided in the notice of motion. He is correct. We do need to be ready and at the table now. There isn't time to sit and wait. And by being prepared, we will actually do a good negotiation for our community. If it's coming, we're not in a res, so there's lots of limitations around us, and we're a small council, so we need to get prepared. And even just as an aside on that, you know, the Abercrombie Road is going to be under severe pressure with the current projects that are already in line, Paling Yards and the forestry. And that currently, as I asked why this was still not classified as a state road. And so as it stands, it's a 50-50 with state and us, if any damage is done to that road, I believe, as a regional road. And it's not a regional road anymore. It's a very important road network going, feeding all the way through to Canberra and on for tourism and just our community as a whole. And then, so I see if the road isn't reclassified and these projects start to run, we can't afford it. We don't have the money to fix this road. So it's another negotiation that we're going to have to undertake. So there's a lot of things, you know, there's a lot in Councillor O'Connor's motion, and there's no time to just sit back and hope that we'll be able to negotiate a good deal. We need to be on the front foot and have all the details of the impacts to make sure that we do get a good BPA in place.
Thank you.
Prepared.
Councillor.
Yes, thank you, Mr Mayor. I will be speaking against this motion in full. Please bear with me. I find it very funny how Councillor O'Connor comes to bring another organisation's thoughts and processes to our council. But anyway, I'll read this out.
Councillor Hayden, there are a point of order. There are a number of people in this council who are members of other organisations, whether it's political parties, farmers' organisations, or anything else. You are entitled to be members of organisations, so those words are inappropriate to Councillor O'Connor.
I withdraw my statement, Mr Mayor, and I will continue with my speaking against the motion. There are no grants specifically labelled for socio and economic impact analysis. You could possibly look for grants under categories such as community development, infrastructure and environmental impact. But those grants mostly cover the costs of studies and analysis needed to support project planning and implementation, and there is no council project. So I'm not sure if they would cover any possible future proposed project by an outside entity. And no one knows if a project will be the outcome of the investigation that is underway. The Pines Wind Farm project is still in the investigation phase with only an investigation contract awarded. This means that the project details are not yet finalised and there could be changes that affect the scope and focus of the analysis. Conducting an analysis at this stage might result in the need for revisions if the project gets approval and evolves, and that would mean further costs to council. Since there is no project approved and in place, there is a risk that the analysis could be based on assumptions that will significantly change as time progresses. This uncertainty will make it difficult to produce a reliable and accurate report. Conducting a comprehensive social and economic impact analysis is time-consuming and involves multiple stages such as data gathering, community consultations, analysis and report writing. This process can take several months to a year or longer. The analysis involves various expenses, including data collection, stakeholder consultations, report preparation. These costs can add up quickly, making it challenging for this council to manage within its existing budget. And if the council would need to cover the costs of the socio-economic impact analysis from its own budget, this would be a significant financial burden, especially if the analysis requires extensive research and external expertise, not to mention the community consultation involved. This will strain the council's budget going forward and place us at significant risk of financial harm. You also need to know the duration and time frame of each stage and the complexity and scope of the project, along with associated costs involved in each stage. The duration of each stage in a socio-economic impact analysis can vary based on the complexity and scope of the project. And from what I can see in this motion, it will be extensive as well as difficult to do, as the majority will be based upon assumptions. So a few stages along the timeframes with an estimate is planning and scoping duration 4 weeks, a possible cost of 5 to 10K. Data collection duration around 6 to 8 weeks, cost around 15 to 40K. Now, these assumptions are based on prices that are 5 years old. Stakeholder consultation duration around 6 weeks with a cost between 10 and 25K. Analysis duration around 6 to 10 weeks, cost around 20 to 50K. Reporting duration about 4 to 6 weeks, cost around 10 to 20K. Review and feedback duration 2 to 4 weeks, cost around 10 to 20K. The costs involved could run from 65 to 70K for 100 to 150K or even higher. And these estimates provide a general idea of potential costs involved. The actual cost will vary depending on the specific requirements and challenges of the project. And it's going to be very difficult to do one based upon assumptions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Graham.
I understand Councillor Hayden's thoughts there, but that's not what the motion's about. The motion's asking to seek funding. That's all it's doing. So I'd be happy to seek funding. That's.
I've got a couple of questions if I could. Sorry.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry. Have you got something?
I doubt if the Stromlo tag people are going to give money. That's not really going to be a source of funding. But if there are grants, but that will take a long time. And by the time we might get something, then they will be a lot further down the track. Yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wonder if we might be able to hear Councillor Alevris's foreshadowed motion so that we can decide whether we prefer this or the foreshadowed or neither before we have.
Yes.
I have a right.
I think it's technically the foreshadowed motion could be put because then we vote on your motion, and if your motion falls, we've at least heard the foreshadowed.
Yes, it's not putting it.
Yeah. So that protocol sort of go to foreshadow.
Well, I'm proposing that the motion that the New South Wales Department of Planning and Environment be requested to provide us existing assessments and studies related to the socio and economic impacts of the proposed wind farm project, and a report presented to council outlining the findings from these discussions. So I think what we need to do is take some extra steps before we start seeking funding. And the most efficient, cost-effective way for Oberon Council to undertake socio and economic impact assessments is for a complex state significant development like what we've got now, in particular having the state forest involved, okay, is to review any existing assessments with the DPE, then use those resources when collaborating with the DPE and Stromlo/Tag Energy and our local community as well, because we need to consider their input in any decision-making process. So I think we should really consider undertaking a feasibility study, okay, give us a clear path for the SCIA and methodologies we use. There's an assessment in cost we should look at, consider resources, either in-house or consultation, and stakeholder engagement strategies like our community via surveys or forums, and then seek funding opportunities, So it's fairly critical the council take a proactive approach prior to and after Stromlo Tag Energy submit their state significant development application and environmental impact statements to the DPE. So
Yeah, don't.
early involvement allows the council to identify specific community needs and concerns, which can be incorporated into the SEIA to support negotiations then for a voluntary planning agreement. The VPA negotiations phase typically occurs after the SSD is approved, but before construction begins. So we kind of need to get our ducks in a row.
So I think, if I could,
Yeah.
and I've got a couple of questions of councillor Connor too.
Yeah.
I sort of get, councillor Connor's notice of motion is saying we need to get everything in place before we do the VPA. So I think you're in agreement there, if I can.
I agree on the funding aspect. I'm just sort of saying there are steps before.
And I'll make some observations in relation to both motions if I can.
Yeah.
The general manager, I've been working to get as many VPAs from other wind farms as we have to be able to look at them, and actually some mining projects as well. We've also been working with the forestry hub to say, you're going to have dramatic transport problems if this project comes up. Have you identified, have you looked at how you're going to cope with it and what's happening? They say, oh, yes. So they're going to investigate that, we believe themselves. They're also going to look at, they've done a fire assessment, risk assessment of Oberon vis-a-vis what happened at Tumut. But we said, well, that's fine, but you haven't actually, you need to up that to say what happens on that fire assessment when you've got 250 turbines, let's talk about that figure, in it. And you need to then do what the increased risk is and how those fires are going to be fought, i.e. does it need new training? Is it really RFS is capable of doing it? Do you have to have a professional fire brigade? All that sort of, so they've said, oh, yes. So we believe that they're going to have a look at that from the forestry hub perspective. So there are a whole lot of bits of the jigsaw that fit together till you can actually get to the VPA. So I get it. So I think what you're both saying, if we get blended is good. My other concern, if I could, is if strong load tag energy provides the funding, I'm just wondering, I don't like, the independence of this is an issue. We need to make sure it's perceived and is independent. If we go to New South Wales government grant, I'm happy with that. But they will probably do their own, or they have probably done their own socio and economic impact analysis. But from council's perspective, I agree, we need to do it independently. So them funding it, I don't think would be perceived as necessarily independent. So I appreciate, if I can, both the notices of motion. I think it would be good if we could blend them. I agree there's an issue about where we can get the funding to do it. I agree we should be getting as much information as we can first, and then maybe giving it to someone with all our information so it reduces the cost. Have you got any idea? I know you've had the information from Walker, etc. What the loss? Did they do one, and what the cost was there?
I do value all the comments tonight.
Thank you.
And the motion is really just about getting this started.
Yes.
Getting the funding. And I'm not naive enough to think that strong low tag will contribute. But if we're in a red zone, Energy Australia pay the money. I think it's Energy Australia.
So in relation to that, you might have remembered that at the JO last time, I raised with Stephen Lawrence. Yeah, sorry.
So in a red zone, they get funding for that now. We're not in a red zone. We need to go out to the state government and say, we'll be doing this in the next 12 months. We need funding. We need to be on an equal footing with other areas. And they may then, I don't know, I'm not in that sphere, but they may look at a grant, they may look at funding some way, but to cut us loose and not provide us with the opportunity to be on the same level that other developments are in residence would seem to me to be not a really good strategy from the government's point of view. So where we get our funding from, I'm not sure. But what we're doing with this motion is to say, we don't want to go into preparing a strategy or spending $20,000 or $30,000 on anything at the moment. What we need is the government to consider our position that we are being cut loose from what the system is providing others. And we need this before we sit down for a VPA, because otherwise, as is done with other councils, we'll get done over.
So, in relation to the comment that I interrupted you a minute ago, that I raised with Stephen Lawrence, I had a ring from Jess Jennings, who's the former mayor of Bathurst, who's working for him, and he asked me details of this. As a result of this proposed notice of motion, I will further go, I undertake to go back to him again and raise this specific thing about can we get funded for this specifically. So if you'd like, I'm happy if you want to put, and the mayor be directed to Bumble, if you want that. To see if we can get funding, because I've already spoken to him. He phoned me a week or so ago and said, you know, you raised this with Stephen Lawrence about, I just need to understand this more. So if you've got that.
The solution is will be political, because we can't fund it. Either be a grant or some sort of funding through Energy Co.
But I also think that Councillor Everest has got an idea that we get as much information as we can beforehand and get it together so that when we get this thing, we can give them a whole lot of information, which as well to help.
It may be costly.
We don't have the money.
We'd be better off starting at this pointy end.
Yeah.
Because from that you can go.
Yeah.
You know, we need to get this underway before we start putting the sails up.
Yeah, and we'll also raise it at the joint organisation. We have already raised the issue at the joint organisation, so it's Cabon.
Yeah. Yeah.
So if you,
Your promotion amendment.
up to you.
Do you want me to direct you whether I want it amended or not?
Yeah. What are you? Sorry, Clive, you got your hand up?
No, I'm just having a bit of a joke how you have a council meeting, you've got your meeting note of conduct, you can go here, you can go there, you can go there, point of order, all the rest of it.
Right.
It's a joke.
All right.
Mr Mayor,
Point
you're
of
the
order
chairman.
and back to business.
Please, I thought you had a motion from councillor Everest.
That was
to
foreshadowed.
That was a foreshadowed motion.
Foreshadowed
So what
motion.
happens is if the motion doesn't get up, then we go to the foreshadowed motion.
That's right.
I would like to move that we put the motion.
Well, I'm about
I'd like to move that we amend the motion to.
No, Mr Mayor, can you please get this meeting back on
She
track?
has asked.
I would like to call.
All right,
point
the
of order
motion's up.
under the code. of
All in favour?
Motion, sorry.
We're up at the original motion,
Original motion.
the one that's on the books. All in favour of the original motion? 5, all against? 4. Okay, carry. Council 11.1, Central New South Wales Joint Organisation meeting and meeting with ministers, 13th to the 14th of November 2024. The recommendation is that council notes a report on the Central New South Wales Joint Organisation board meetings held on 13th and 14th of November. I'll move the motion. Do I have a seconder, please? Councillor McCarthy, thank you. I think the paper speaks for itself. Very detailed report. Councillor McCarthy,
Speaks for itself. Thank you, Mr Mayor.
any other further comments on this? So I put the motion, all in favour? Thank you. .2 on page 26, Country Mayors Association meeting of the 9th on the 15th of November 2024. The recommendation is that the delegates report for the 15th of November 2024 Country Mayors Association meeting is received and noted. Could I have a mover for the motion? Councillor Graham, seconder. Councillor O'Connor. Councillor Graham.
Yes, I was fortunate enough to attend this meeting. It was an unusual meeting, I feel. There were some good speakers, but most of it was spent in elections, which was, took a long time. Very unusual method of handing out voting papers and ticking off lists. But anyway, there was some interesting meeting, and of course you do have to have elections at an annual general meeting, so that's what happened.
Okay, any further comments on this? Councillor Tucker.
I was just going to say that I enjoyed the interesting new spelling of your name, Councillor McKibbob.
That's all right, I get it quite often. I'll put the motion on favour. Thank you. Carried unanimously. 11.3, Local Government New South Wales Annual Conference, 17th and 19th of November 2024. The recommendation is that council notes the report of information. I'll move the motion. Second, please. Councillor Tremblay, thank you. If you go to the link, it gives you a great insight into the council, but as it said, most of it was spent with council resolutions going up before the local government conference. It was 2 days. As it said, 100 motions for consideration. We managed to amend one to include increased weed action plan funding to the government. But as I said, there were a number of motions. Any further discussion on this matter? If not, I put it. All in favour? 11.4 is Oberon Business and Tourist Association AGM and General Meeting. Recommendation is the council note the information provided in the report. Can I have a motion, please?
Mr Mayor, if you may excuse me, you didn't give the seconder a chance for anything in the previous.
I apologise.
No. Thank you, sorry, just brought that up. And yes, I'll move my motion, my recommendation.
Second, please. Councillor Everest, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, there's nothing further to add. I think it speaks for itself. The AGM and the normal meeting were both in the one report. Thank you.
Councillor, any further discussion on this matter? I've put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 11.5, Borough and District Community Association meeting held on the 14th of November 2024. The recommendation is that council notes the information contained within the delegates' report. Motion as per the recommendation. Councillor Hayden?
Yes.
Second, please. Councillor McCarthy, thank you. Councillor Hayden?
Yes, no, nothing further to really add, just the same issues that Mr Mayor would be aware of. Passed on some grant information and I appreciate the one that you forwarded through to me with further information as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Ria. Have we got any, and I know it's been very difficult, have we actually had any success with the Blackburry Cemetery accident?
No.
Oh, sorry, I should have asked the seconder, who was Councillor McCarthy, first before I asked that question.
Yeah.
Apologies.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have been looking at some privacy regulations around the ownership of private cemeteries on private land. The owners are well within their right to refuse any entry of any individual for any purpose whatsoever. Should the cemetery have been a public cemetery on private land or something like that, or have an MOU in place or some kind of agreement, it would be different. I haven't yet been able to talk to the owner of the land. In due course, I will when I get some free time, and I'll have a quick discussion about a couple of those issues. But other than that, the owners well within their rights to refuse access.
Councillor McCarthy.
Yeah, I just got Burriga Cemetery. It keeps coming up, and I'm just not sure what you can do. Solicitors didn't used to advertise once. Now they advertise, and you've got a litigation problem. That's why the lady doesn't give access. But what is surprising, Neil's got a cemetery on his own place down on the Abercrombie River. I wonder what his feelings are about access to that. Anyway, I must make a point of asking. Thank you.
All right, any further discussion on this matter? So I put the motion. All in favour? Passed unanimously. Thank you. 11.6, Oberon Arts Council meeting 28th November 2024. The recommendation is council receive and note the Oberon Arts Council delegates report. Councillor Graham, thank you. Seconder, Councillor O'Connor, thank you. Councillor Graham.
I would like to note for Fluffy the dog coming to the Oberon in February, and it's part of a mental health sort of approach to health. So that will be a good program. And drumming workshops that came about from the grant the year before are still continuing. The grant money has run out, but the members are still paying the trainer, and it's still going. So that's was a very useful use of the grant money, the Reconnecting Communities grant.
Councillor Cole,
No, further.
any further discussion? If not, I put the motion. All in favour? Passed unanimously. 12 is committee reports. There are 13 reports for decision. 13.1 is the modification of consent 80 Wilson Drive Oberon 2-lot subdivision MOD 10.2021.94.3. The recommendation is that council, 1, refuse the application for the following reasons, A, the application as proposed would not be substantially the same development as the original application. B, the proposed modification would be inconsistent with section B.12.8 electricity supply of council's development control plan 2001. C, the proposed modification is inconsistent with the level of essential services electricity and communications intended by the conditions of consent for the original application. D, the conditions of consent imposed are not onerous on the proponent. E, the proposed modification is inconsistent with the commitments made by the proponent in the statement of environmental effects prepared by Integral Consulting for the original application. And 2, that a division be called in accordance with section 375A of the Local Government Act 1993. Could I have a motion? Thank you, Councillor Hayden.
I'd like to move the recommendation as it stands.
Right, seconder, please. Councillor Rembarth, thank you. You're moving it as, right, okay. Speak to it, please.
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm happy to move the recommendation as it stands, and I have nothing further to add. This has been before this council previously. Thank you.
Councillor Rembarth.
I'm happy to second and I have nothing to add.
Any further discussion on this matter? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Go to 13.2. 13.2 has been deferred, is no longer. 13.3, which is on page 46.
I have an alternate.
13.3, modification of consent DA 10.2022.59.2, multi-dwelling house 2A, Queen Street, Oberon. You have an alternate.
Yes. My recommendation is that.
No, your motion is.
My motion is that council approve modification to DA, and I have a rationale for that if I have a seconder for it.
Right, do we have a seconder? No seconder?
That's fair. Thanks. It's lapsed.
Motion's lapsed because we couldn't turn it out of foreshadowing.
Yeah, we didn't have a motion at all.
No,
There is no motion.
So
You got a recommendation.
Moving the recommendation, Mr Mayor.
you're moving the recommendation. Seconder? That's okay. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I'm moving as written for all the reasons set out in the report.
Thank you. That's okay.
And I support that through you, Mr Mayor, and also for me, to amend it would set an untidy precedent.
Any further discussion, Councillor Hayden?
Yes, I'd like to speak against the recommendation. Council had approved this previously. The additional is the additional bedrooms to the units. The reason that I'm speaking against this, as we originally approved this because we were addressing housing needs. The modification aligns with council's goal of addressing a shortage of smaller dwellings for smaller household sizes. It also addresses enhanced living spaces. Adding bedrooms would have enhanced the living spaces, making them more suitable for families. And the community benefit, because this development would contribute positively to the community in providing more versatile housing options. I mean, currently there's hardly any housing available in Oberon that is affordable, and considering the location of the area 2A at Queen Street, it's in the locality of a motel anyway, so it wasn't really out of place as in where the modification was. So council in its first instance, when it actually approved the original DA for this building was well within their rights to do so because it wasn't out of situ down there. I understand that council may wish to do as the recommendation, but I speak strongly against the recommendation. Despite the non-compliances, the council initially approved this development because it addressed a shortage of smaller residential housing. So anyway, that's all I've got to say, Matt. Thank you.
Can I just get some clarity from you, Tony Director? So, yes, we approved this, but we approved this
As a two.
as it was without these additions that they're proposing now. But they weren't considered at the time of the initial approval, was that?
Through the chair, that's correct, Mr. Smith.
So these additions have only come subsequent to that approval of the initial.
That's correct.
And from reading your report, the report believes that, noting the comments by Councillor Hayden, that this would be overdevelopment on the site.
Through the chair, that's correct. It's staff recommendation.
Any further discussion on this matter? If not, I put the motion as per the recommendation. All in favour? And Councillor Hayden against. Thank you. 13.4 is the 2025-26 IPART rate peg determination. Recommendation is that council adopt the IPART determined rate peg of 5.4% for the 2025-26 financial year. Have a motion, please. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, as per the recommendation at 5.4%.
Councillor McConnell. Seconding?
Seconding.
Yes, thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, nothing further to add. Should we select a lower rate? Well, we always put ourselves into a financial position. If we do that, we need to go with what IPART has recognised. Thank you.
Councillor McConnell.
It's nice to support that, but also just make comments and that you use it or lose it. So if you don't pick it up, we're in a time of high inflation. We don't know what's around the corner, and we still have the option to look at moving the amount of rating income between categories down the track.
Any other comments? I would just make a comment, if I could, that the fixed overheads in particular, if we're looking at some of those at the top of page 50, in particular insurance, cybersecurity, and audit fees, and the fraud and governance controls really give us probably little room to move with this IPART recommendation because they are quite substantial in the moment. Plus the 46% increase in salary costs here with the superannuation increase. All right. Any further discussion on this matter? Well, I put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. 13.5 is the plan of management. 24 Crown reserves for adoption. The recommendation is the council adopt the community land plan of management for 24 Crown reserves, and 2, advise Crown lands that the subject plan of management has been adopted. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Penmarth. Seconder, I'm looking for one. Councillor Leverett. Councillor Leverett.
I'd like to move the recommendation and have nothing further to add.
Thank you. Councillor Leverett.
Nothing further to add.
Okay. Anyone else? Councillor Tucker, thank you. Oh, sorry, I'll do next. Councillor Hayden next. Councillor Tucker, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a question about the cost impact. It says in one point that the reserves are under council's care and control already, but then it also says that it provides a commensurate demand on council's resources to maintain these reserves. So it just seems to be a slight discrepancy there, and I'm just after comment from the director about whether adopting this in any way increases our costs and whether that's been allowed for in our budget.
Thank you. I'll send that to, Greg. I thought I might ask the finance area, but ask you first.
Through the chair, the adoption of this plan, Councillor Cobb would not have any additional, expenditure to the council other than what currently being undertaken.
Okay, so it's within our current budget.
That's correct.
Yep, that's the clarity. Councillor Carr.
Just a clarification, what about fire breaks? They're not being done at the moment, so if we've got to do them.
Ask the director. Are we required to do them? Do we do them? What's the obligation?
Through the chair, the obligation is to, I might defer to, senior planner in that regard.
It will be to maintain those, but they'll be they're generally done by the RFS and those types of organisations. The RFS do have a reduction burn, et cetera, and do those type of payments within those roadworks.
But what about trees over the roadworks that are in there? If you go up to the one that's called Bishop, you can't get a fire tank around them, so hopefully they get me own two out around there, but yeah, and that's my concern that.
Yeah, might ask the general manager to answer this, yes.
Through the chair, we used to do this through a BRIMS process, which is a joint project between the RFS and council to in fact put in allocations to allow this. Over the last 12 months, that allocation that was previously provided by the state has been substantially reduced. And it's making it a lot harder to get to these types of things that we'd otherwise use as part of our protective maintenance under our R&M agreement with the RFS. So it is problematic. We agree. We'll just keep pushing back to the state government to look at those options for more funding to be able to do that.
Okay. Councillor Hayden?
Yeah, thank you. I'd like through the mayor, thank Councillor McCarthy for bringing that up. Can't find my notes, but I was going to bring up some of the issues, especially with the Genolan Reserve up the top, because as Councillor McCarthy would be aware, that reserve always, at least yearly, had 5 fire breaks done. The access to the roadway that leads up to the back of the houses, for the access to the rear of those houses, that was always done. I know that's been very lacking over the last 3 to 5 years. The trees that have fell over all over these walking bicycle tracks and stuff, and I did bring this issue up a year ago, 2 years ago, and probably not 3 years ago, I don't think. But yeah, it really does need council to have a look at that, because having those houses so close to that natural reserve, and it's one of our inland timber stands that we've got in town with, you know, woody grasslands. So we need to make sure that it's weed free, rubbish free, and that it's tidied up so that people can still access that one. So I, along with Councillor McCarthy, agree that that's one of the ones that actually we need to have a good look at and get that one sorted.
Okay, Councillor. I don't think there's any disagreement with that. Right, any further discussion? If not, I put the motion. All in favour? Passed unanimously. We go to 13.6, playground risk assessment further report. The recommendation is that Council 1 endorse the removal of all non-compliant play equipment at the parks at Armstrong Place, Bly Street, Buckley Crescent, Burriga, Cunningham Oval, Windare Street North, Windare Street South, and Miss Wilson. Option A. 2, approve the proposed works program for the parks at Buckley Crescent, Burriga, Cunningham Oval, Hassel Park, Herb David Park, the pool, and multiple playground areas within the Oberon Common. Option A. 3, implement a communication strategy outlining the rationale behind the need to remove the current non-compliant playground equipment and what mechanisms council proposed to replace the non-compliant equipment. 4, receive a further report with the aim to consider the implementation of playground service hierarchy. We have a motion, please. Councillor Tucker.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. If I have a different motion, I provided it to Sharon earlier.
That's alternate motion.
Therefore, it's just a motion, if you like. And whilst coming up, it is somewhat similar to what I proposed last month, but there are some changes and additions. So perhaps if it's just to take a chance to read through it before I speak to it at all. It is quite long, I acknowledge that. Multiple points.
Do you have a second for this?
It goes down further than that as well.
Oh, right. We need to see the whole thing before we say a second.
Number 10 is the final one.
So this is not similar, not identical to the one with the text.
It's not identical. There are some parts that are similar, but well, I should wait for a second before I just speak.
I'm just trying to understand.
Yeah.
There's no, that this won't be knocked out on the basis that it's same motions come up again, it's already been rejected.
Well, and
Mr. Mayor.
comment on it as well, if necessary.
Still seconding it?
I have a foreshadow.
So we've got councillor
I'm
Everett seconding and you're foreshadowing. So you're happy to second, so I'll ask councillor Tucker to speak. Then you to speak on it.
Yeah.
Then you can foreshadow after that. And tell us what you foreshadowing, what is right.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As I said, yes, there are some similarities to last month, but the impression I got when it completed was that council was after some additional financial information. So I have tried to include some more details about dollar figures. The overall aim is to try to get as much progress as possible on rectifying the deficient equipment with the money that we've got available. So that is the Town Improvement Legacy Fund, plus a further $81,000 from section 711 and 712, as was previously recommended by staff. So that total will be sufficient to get us very far advanced on rectifying the problems. And so the aim is to try to get as far as we can, and for those parts which are not able to be done within that budget, that we fence them and we make them unusable, and that we search for other funding opportunities, whether it's grants or our own money, to get those remaining parts back up and going as soon as we can. So I'll leave it at that. It's quite long, but I'll keep my comments as brief as possible.
Just a clarification, Mr Mayor. Number 1, do we need to get in there due to the action that we've done earlier on the night?
Well, I think that's the case. I'll just ask the seconder, then I'll come back. I'll get the foreshadow, then you're next. Thanks.
Yeah, look, Mr Mayor, I don't, close, to be quite honest. So, hence I support this.
So this is closing Hassel Park.
It is, yeah.
And I don't know that we, look, I'll speak for a minute. Councillor Hayden?
Did you want to hear my foreshadow?
To the chair, please.
Yes.
The report actually doesn't propose to close any parks whatsoever. It proposes to remove non-compliant playing.
Yes. Except when do we have?
So that's not it.
So, sorry, right, exactly right. So we've had the seconder. Foreshadowed, what are you foreshadowing?
Well, I've foreshadowed and sent it through to Sharon, should it be needed. And my foreshadow is different to
Just speak to
Councillor
general.
Buckers. Okay, so my foreshadowed is immediate compliance upgrades to retain all current playgrounds except for the decommissioning of Glendwere North Playground. Prioritise upgrading non-compliant equipment at Armstrong Place, Buckley, Blythe Street, Miss Wilson, Glendwere South.
I'm listening.
There was disturbance, Mr Mayor. I was trying to focus on what I was saying. And allocate available 247,490 from the Town Improvement Legacy Fund to risk mitigation, implement temporary exclusion fencing around non-compliant equipment until upgrades are completed to alleviate immediate safety risks, ensure regular inspections and maintenance of exclusion fencing to prevent hazards and maintain safety, additional funding, identify and secure additional funding sources to cover the shortfall of approximately 142,250 required to fully implement the compliance upgrades, explore grants, partnerships and other funding opportunities to support the ongoing maintenance and upgrades of playgrounds. 4, legal and compliance assurance, ensure all upgrades and maintenance activities are documented and comply with the Australian standards to mitigate legal liability. 5, phased implementation, adopt a phased approach to the works program, starting with the most critical upgrades at Armstrong Place, Buckley Crescent, Blythe Street, Miss Wilson and Glendwere South. Number 6, community engagement, implement a communication strategy to inform the community about the rationale for the upgrades, the importance of compliance and the planned improvements, engage with the community to address concerns and maintain public trust throughout the upgrade process. And 7, long-term maintenance. Invest in durable materials such as rubber softball to reduce ongoing maintenance costs and extend the lifespan of playground equipment. Establish a sustainable funding strategy for regular maintenance, inspections and compliance monitoring to ensure the long-term safety and usability of the playground. Sorry, I tried to get that through that really quick.
That's foreshadowed. Right, councillor McCarthy, your point.
I'm just wondering whether the action that we took earlier in the night, whether number 1's required.
Well, it probably isn't. And I'm sure that councillor Tucker and councillor Emrys might agree to that deletion as where that.
Well, it doesn't matter if we resolve the same thing twice anyway.
Make sure it gets done.
All right.
Well, if it's felt that it should be removed, I'm happy for it to be removed.
And I think it's exactly right. Now, yes, councillor Cotter.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. And through you, I'd like to thank the Director of Technical Services. Very detailed report, and sometimes when you do a very detailed report, more detail comes out. So we've sort of got that position at the moment. Unless there's any material changes, I'd like to recommend that we refer back to the original.
So are you putting a?
No, I'm not. I'm just sort of making a statement that
He's speaking against it.
against the motion.
Right.
I'm speaking against the motion as well. Because I want to ask way back, and it's in the notes here, about our risk. Council ensure that in future resolutions which do not follow staff recommendations, there is a clear description as how council is to address the risk and acknowledgement of the potential strategic impacts as presented to them. This is a very, very important report that's been provided to us. We've had KidSafe involved. Talking about putting temporary fencing up around a playground for possibly a couple of years. You don't know how long that's going to be up. That's not a really good for children to see. It's like sometimes we have to make some really hard decisions. And to be honest, number 2, consider putting a playground in the O'Connell Rec Ground. There is one playground in the whole LGA. And to put a playground in the rec ground is a few $100,000. It's not a simple thing, and it is built into the master plan, perhaps to have a nature play or something like that. But you're proposing that the biggest population outside of the Oberon community, children who use that park, they have birthday parties there because they don't have anywhere else to go. They play. We have people who stop by with their children. But the biggest part to me is we've had a recommendation put to us, and now we're just going to completely ignore the risks involved. And Eric warned us about this.
So I just want to get, are you foreshadowing, you foreshadowed a minute ago, are you foreshadowing, you're proposing an amendment? I'm a bit confused from where you Are you foreshadowing going back to the original?
The original, that's right.
Are you foreshadowing it or are you proposing an amendment?
Foreshadowing.
Foreshadowing, okay. All right. We've got one from you, foreshadowing.
Am I allowed to speak yet for this? Because I haven't had the chance.
Yes, you've put a foreshadow.
Yeah, I know I've put a foreshadow,
Right,
but
talk to this one.
I'm not talking to my foreshadow. I would like to talk to councillor Tucker's motion, if I may. Thank you. Why?
He did talk. So,
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I understand where councillor Tucker is coming on this, and I really appreciate that councillor Tucker was being thoughtful regarding the O'Connell Recreation Ground playground, because I think he has been seeing the communication that has been across social media channels where they've been requesting a playground in the rec ground. So I do understand where that comes from. However, I probably wouldn't go along with that. I do have my foreshadowed a few issues in this one. I'm more of the thinking, I'm not being completely against, but I'm more thinking that the original concept of how all this came about was the decommissioning report we got for decommissioning particular playgrounds. So my focus is more on those playgrounds that were at risk of decommissioning. I appreciate all the work that's gone into this by councillor Tucker, but yeah, I'll just leave that with that. Thank you.
right, any further discussion? Councillor Graham.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. It's a very long motion, and I don't think I can agree with all of it. There are bits of it that would be fine, but I don't think it still addresses the risk to council.
Thank you.
I don't think that's been changed, and I'd prefer to go back to the original recommendation.
So I'm going to put the alternate motion from the recommendation. Then if that gets up, then that gets up. If it doesn't get up, we go to councillor Hayden's. Councillor Hayden's foreshadowed motion, if she can get a second. If that doesn't get up, we go back to the next foreshadowed motion. We're all happy with the process?
Yeah.
Right. So I'll put the motion that's been put up by councillor Tucker, the alternate motion, and seconded by councillor L. Everest. All in favour? 4 and 5 against. So that motion is lost. We then go to yours, councillor Hayden. You need a seconder? Have you got one? Seconder for councillor Hayden's. Councillor Hayden's seconder?
I'll second.
Seconder, right, thank you.
I better second it, these second names.
Well, you can second mine if you like.
It was lost though, so you can second this one.
Okay, all right.
Right, do you want to say any more?
Oh, has Sharon got it up ready? I did send it through.
I don't think there's a need to read it again, I think.
No, the reason that I wrote in point 1 was immediate compliance. That means that this is something that is conducted straight away. The motion ensures that all playgrounds except Glendwee North remain accessible and safe for the community while addressing compliance with the Australian standards. By prioritising the immediate compliance upgrades and implementing temporary risk mitigation, the council can effectively manage safety risks and legal liabilities. So I did note in there around point 4 with the legal and compliance assurance. I have looked at the risk mitigation here, implementing temporary exclusion fencing around those that will be waiting in due course to be repaired, as everything is staged in a process, and utilising the funds from the Town Improvement Legacy Fund. I did note that there will be additional funding that will need to be allocated, and I thought perhaps maybe we could have a look at some internal reserves that might be able to be allocated somewhere along the track. Thank you, that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Seconder? Councillor Everett? Nothing more to add. Okay, any other comments on this motion? All in favour of the motion? Councillor Hayden, Everest and Tucker, all against? The motion
What
is
are you
lost.
doing, Colin?
Sitting on the fence.
Yeah.
Yes, no,
All right, we now go to the next foreshadow, councillor Connor, and your a motion is per the recommendation.
That's right.
You have a seconder?
I'll second it.
Right, thank you. Councillor Connor?
No further comment.
No, you don't want to speak to it? Right. Councillor Hayden?
Could I make an amendment, Mr Mayor?
Yes, I mean, you've got to, you can put the amendment and see if the proposal.
No,
All right.
I would just like to, add a point, if I could,
Yes,
that, there be a point listed in here, be between any part of the recommendation that you would like to place it, that gives a guarantee that those playgrounds being Armstrong Place, Bly Street, Buckley Crescent, the Burriga, Cunningham Oval, Glindweir South and Miss Wilson, have improvements done and are not closed and decommissioned and set back to grass permanently. So I just want some assurance that the playgrounds will be remediated to be usable.
okay, well, I'll ask the mover in the second whether I agree with that amendment. And if you want to ask a question, I'm happy.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Through you, I'd like to ask our director, there's nothing in this in regard to councillor.
Through the chair,
Yes.
it was provided as part of the last report, so I actually kept the report as short as we possibly could and removed a lot of additional detail we had added to make it clearer. So for some of that equipment, as per works table, there's some attached or actually receiving the report.
Yes.
There is no proposal to replace it. So it has to be removed. If we fence it or not, it still has to be removed. If we replace it on the track with additional funding, it still has to be removed to mitigate the risk. But the current report doesn't like the works program as to point 3, I think, or which one was it? Two. Says we have worked with the Buckley Crescent, Paradox, Cunningham, Castle Parker, David, and the pool, and various at the common. The ones that we propose to remove and re-establish the grass, it will be usable as a park area. However, the play equipment under the current budget is not proposed to be replaced with new. There was a second option, which was like 600 something grand, if that was so the options were listed in the report.
So, yeah, so do you want to put an amendment?
So I wanted the amendment to state that these playgrounds will have some improvements, because my fear in this, and I'm speaking for the residents of these areas where these parks are, they are going to have, and I understand, the equipment is going to be taken out and they will be taken back to being grass. There is nothing in here that is stating any improvements or that there will be the play equipment there for these residential areas. And we as a council shouldn't be taking things away from our residents and having them as bare grass when they're full of children. But that's why I want to admit something in there to guarantee.
Do you have an amendment? Do you have a second?
Do I have a second?
I'd like a second.
That's a full show. Well, it's an addition, but the proposer and the
just wanted
seconder
to
haven't agreed to
create
it, so
an
it has to be an amendment. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So the amendment has to be 1, 2, 3, 4, and you're putting a 5 in.
Yep.
And we will vote on the amendment, and if it's lost, we go back to the original.
Yeah.
Right. So Councillor Hayden, I think what the technical services director was saying a minute ago was that as funding comes available, we can put new equipment in these areas where stuff has been removed. Currently, there is no budget, and I think I heard her say 600,000 was what would be required to put new equipment in these. Where do you foreshadow that funding is going to come from?
I hear what the technical services director is saying, and we have all read the kids' safe reports, and in some of those reports under you had option 1, option 2. Some in option 2 were quite reasonable. We're not talking about every single park in Oberon to replace with new equipment would be an extraordinary amount of money. I'm talking about those main parks in the residential areas being those listed in number 1. That they have some kind of guarantee that there will be some improvement to infrastructure in those parks for those children in those residential areas. Because once we take that equipment out of these parks, the fear is they will never, ever be put back or have equipment placed there. That's the fear.
Isn't that what's intended by 4?
No, it doesn't say that at all. Receive a further report with the aim to reconsider implementation of a playground service.
So I understood, I read that.
And I have, Mr Mayor, read the hierarchy that was previously shown to all of us councillors, and those parks were not placed in that hierarchy. They were bare ground.
So through the chair, this is the whole reason why we wanted to bring a report back to council to have your input into that hierarchy process.
And
that was the whole point of
I just want something in here to guarantee that these parks will have some remediation and equipment placed in them for children.
Through the chair, the hierarchy had considered those parks just at a lower level of service. So, you know, that's then up to council to determine, should we propose to adopt one, how we adopt it, what then, you know, is proposed. Going back to the report and the various options. So the option as per staff recommendation is option 1, which is costed at 390 grand and annual operation for 50 grand. And further down in the report on page 282 are the options A, B, C, and D. That was option A. Option C is what you would be proposing, to replace all the ones we removed with new. That was the option: remove all non-compliant play equipment and replace all current equipment with new equipment, and highlight where additional funding will be sourced from. And the costing for that was capital cost 605,768,000, annual operational cost almost 90,000. So that just to give you the comparison on that one.
No, I understand that. My concern here is that we're taking playgrounds away from children in residential areas. And as Councillor Trember had mentioned about taking the playground away from O'Connell people, we've got a larger population here. We've got a lot of children in these streets, and that's my concern. I just want to guarantee that something is going to occur to replace stuff for these kids. Those playgrounds have been there for more than 60 years. I don't believe we should take them away from children now.
Okay, we have a funding source.
Yep. Well, we can get some grant funding, apply for grant funding to attend to replace playgrounds, whether it's a staged approach. We could probably look at a playground in a staged approach, get grant funding through probably Destination or one of the recreational grant funds that might pop up, and replace the parks in a stage process.
Through the chair, just to clarify on that one further as well, the parks you mentioned, they were assessed that they have non-compliant play equipment that can't be cordoned off. So if you want them to be usable, they're currently not usable anyway.
No, but it needs, I understand that the play equipment will be removed, but I want something to state that something will be going in place.
And to place them down the track once we've adopted a hierarchy and sourced some funding, or we fence them now, create a further risk, further operational cost, and I
Look,
I think one is.
what I'm saying is I am happy for that they're supposed to be removed, but I want something in writing that I can refer to, so that in a year when it's not done, I can say we made the resolution to replace.
So in 5, that council consider as funding becomes available, replacing equipment at the parks identified in 1.
Yes.
Is that what you're trying to say?
Something along that effect. I don't care how it's said, just as long as it's a guarantee.
Into the hierarchy, that's all you need to do.
No, that's not. We need a guarantee.
So through the chair, the whole purpose of that hierarchy is, yes, staff provided a generic, this is what we could consider. And we've taken that step further. So the council and the community should be the ones who develop their hierarchy, and that can come from the consultation in that space to develop.
Don't trust that procedure. in full. I just,
Through the chair, it's a report back to council to make that decision,
So,
not do it beforehand.
so you proposed an amendment and that's guaranteed that playgrounds are remediated to be usable, but we can only do that as we have funds, so.
in a staged process,
And
as funds become available.
yeah, we can't guarantee it.
Why can't you guarantee it? You're taking them
Well,
away,
We can only do it as funds become available.
right?
So you
State
could
that,
say,
state that playgrounds in Armstrong Place, Buckley Crescent, Blythe Street, Miss Wilson, Glendware South and Burriga, I think you'll need to put in there.
well, it starts with
Yeah.
that council. Support
Establish.
or re-establish playgrounds.
Re-establish playgrounds in Armstrong Park, 2 years of state and stage as funds become.
As funds become available, yeah. Yeah.
Because then we've got the resolution on the books, we can refer to it in due course.
Through the chair to, if you just say funds rather than grant funds, then.
I didn't say grant, I said as funds.
When the funding source was asked for, you said grant, so I'm just saying that just have funds there.
Yeah.
Because it might be a operational plan, it
Yeah.
might be 7-Eleven, it might be something else.
Yeah, some rich business might give some.
As funds become available and they have to be directed to this by council.
Yeah.
And are directed to the playgrounds
As funds are directed.
I don't think you need to add that, and as we are saying, as funds become available.
yes, but we make any funds that become available then get directed to this.
It doesn't mean that, it says it in the previous sentence.
Just through the chair, I don't believe Burriga needs to be in, it's covered under item.
Right, oh, it was just because it was at the top.
Yeah, because it has, like, even that requires removal, but then item 2 says adopt the word.
That's right.
Set out in the table.
Okay.
I don't think remediated is the right word because we're actually replacing it. No?
What?
Will be replaced rather than remediated.
Yes.
But I don't think it needs to be musicals because it's replaced. As funds for this purpose become available.
With thinking purpose. It's fine.
You happy with that?
I think the re-establish has to go in the sentence.
Yes, you don't need to re-establish.
Well, you can't really.
Yeah, you need a linking.
In
Oh,
Armstrong
right,
Station
it's linked, like it.
will be replaced in the station project as funds.
Play equipment. How about we just write play equipment?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Instead of replace, just remove, replace and put play equipment. Because the grounds are already there.
Yeah, I think, but the resolution then says that council play equipment.
Yeah.
It's got to be replaced, there has to be a linking word between.
All right.
Establish.
Replace. Yeah. Oh,
Establish.
okay. I think it's gone on long enough.
Right, yeah.
I was just going to ask a question, Mr. Mayor. Does Eric have TV in respect that, did they not see our future king swinging on a rope swing with a wooden plate at the bottom? And he's our future king of England. Where's the risk assessment there?
I know.
Kids are kids and they're always going to be kids.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with you. But then if you look on the page of this report, it says 10% of all hospitalisations of children come from playgrounds.
Probably most of them at home.
That's right. Okay. You happy with that? Councillor Hayden, you happy with the wording?
Yeah, I've already said that.
Councillor Tucker?
The mover and seconder of the amendment have spoken, so I just wanted to comment that that I support the amendment because that was one of the purposes of my original motion. Because number one says endorse the removal of non-compliant play equipment, and the previous reports, to my mind, have made it clear that that was intended to be permanent. And I don't support permanent removal because I think it's important, very local playgrounds that are, if they are permanently lost, I think it is too far for kids to walk to the nearest playground that would still remain under that proposed higher rating. So I don't support their removal, but at least putting that extra bit in is a bit of an improvement. And I also just wanted to comment about Hassel Park, if I may. As far as I'm concerned, that is not a council playground. It was always, in my time, maintained under the road contract. It is part of the rest area, which was in the contract documents, paid for by RTA, RMS, and I don't think it's right that because they say, oh no, we're not going to maintain it, that we just automatically say, okay, well, we'll pay to upgrade it, we'll pay to maintain it. It is their playground and they should be paying for it, and that's why I had that item in. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Quick question, particularly the Service Director. So if 5 came to fruition and we reinstated all these playgrounds with similar equipment, then currently I think our annual maintenance budget, if we'd adopted the existing resolution, would have been 60. That mean that our annual budget would be more closer to 90,000 for maintenance. Is that correct? Just for clarity. So it's costing us an extra 30,000 a year.
Actually a bit more, so the current one is 50,
Right.
50, and the proposed one would be just under 90.
Just under 90, so extra 40,000 a year. So we have to take that into account. Okay. I put the amendment. All in favour of the amendment? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Clive, you're against it?
I'm against all of it.
8 for, 1 against. Okay, the amendment now becomes the motion. All in favour of the motion? 8 for and 5, 8 and 1. Clive's against.
I was against. The amendment improved it, but I'm still against it. So it was 7-2 for the final vote.
Right, sorry. I should vote for the amendment, yes. Stupid of me. All right. So we go to 13.7, council and staff interaction policy. The recommendation is the council endorse policy council and staff interaction and place it on public exhibition for 28 days. 2, if no submissions are received during the exhibition period, policy be adopted as presented. 3, delegate to the general manager to amend any minor changes proposed. Motion, councillor Hayden, as per the recommendation.
Yeah, as per recommendation.
Seconder, please. Councillor O'Grady, thank you. You want to speak to it now?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I was just going to seek some clarification from the general manager. This is an exact copy of the model, staff and councillor interaction policy, because there is actually of the local government model. I went through this as it's printed out in the business papers. It seems exact to the model.
Through the chair, not exact, but it's being used as
model.
As a process to develop this, yes. We try to Oberon it as much as we can.
Right. I'm quite happy to accept models that just have slight amendments to them, but no, it's fine. I've gone through it. Thank you.
Nothing further to add.
Any further discussion? Councillor Trimmer.
I'd just like to thank the general manager for having put this in place. I hope it does improve some of the communications that have been occurring. And I do find it sort of a little bit insulting that all of the councils are probably included in this and don't actually require this policy to ensure that we're respectful with all our communications, but I'd just like to say, yes, it's great that it's in place. But I don't think many of us need it.
All right. Any further comments? If not, I put the motion, which is as per the recommendation, in three parts. All in favour? Carried unanimous. You're not,
I'm against it.
oh yeah, councillor McCarthy against it. 13.8, financial assistance policy. 13.8, financial assistance policy 2209. The recommendation is the council place the renewed financial assistance policy 2209 on public exhibition for a period of 42 days, inviting public submissions during this time. 2, note proposed removal of annual recurrent donations consultation process with impacted community organisations.
They've got a giant bee in their muffler.
3, note that a subsequent report summarising the consultation outcomes and submissions received will be presented to council before the final adoption of the policy. I move for motion. Thank you, councillor O'Connor. Seconder? Councillor Tremblay. Thank you, councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Recommend the financial assistance policy. There was one sentence that stood out to me on point A, sorry, 4.A. By focusing one-off grants, the policy ensures that funds are distributed equitably and that the projects are evaluated on the current merit rather than historical arrangements. That sort of fits with the way I think it should run too. And then under point C, would there be any problem in putting balance sheet in there? Proposed changes to include that. I don't need that to be done tonight, or just to consider including the balance sheet. So a new policy incorporates robust documentation, registration, statutory things, marketing plans, and the balance sheet of the.
Could I ask? So are you saying that if there is a request for financial assistance from someone who's got a robust balance sheet, that's a consideration, or?
No, it's more to allow the council to consider it properly, that there's increased documentation required, which should include the applicant's balance sheet, to understand what the need is.
Okay, well, could I suggest, maybe the way to do this is to, if we approve this, to put a submission in, because you've got to 42 days.
I'll do that.
All right, councillor Tremblay.
No, I have nothing to add, thank you.
Councillor Hayes.
Yes, just some clarity around when you ask the councillor to put a submission in, that it kind of avoids voting on particular items when you put a submission in. So I just want to bring that to the fore, but also I don't agree with how the policy is written. I certainly don't agree with Part D, the assessment process, and the proposed change around a new policy introducing a financial assistance program panel that incorporates, as it states in there, someone chosen by the mayor, someone chosen by council. I think that's given council a bit of a headache when we had to do our general managers review panel. I don't believe we need to have a panel at all set up with a few councillors here and whatever to give recommendations to bring through to council to make decisions. I believe that should be omitted, and that the whole of council get to do the assessment on these financial assistance 356 grant applications or whatever should come forward. I don't agree with the panel under no circumstance, I'm afraid. I'm sorry.
So can I suggest again, councillor Hayden, that point 3 says, note that a subsequent report summarising the consultation outcomes and submissions received will be presented to the council before the final adoption of this policy. So this policy is coming back to council again. So I think it is appropriate that in this case, submissions can be lodged, and then we consider the policy again with those submissions. If it wasn't coming back to council, it might be a different situation, but it is coming back to council.
Just to finish, I think you're mistaken in what I'm trying to say. Perhaps being the governing body and policymakers, this council should have had a workshop around this and put the suggestions forward as to what we wanted to see in a financial assistance policy instead of staff recommendations that do something, give to us, and we don't actually have any input.
So are you putting an amendment up? What are you doing? Are you putting an amendment to say that this policy should be deferred and we should have a workshop? What are you saying?
Yep, I'll put an amendment up that we defer this and have a workshop and design a policy that suits all councillors.
There was a workshop and there wasn't presentation on this, I seem to recall. Am I correct?
Yes,
When?
we did a section 356 presentation to the council on this.
You did a 356 presentation, but there was no talk of policy workshop.
Through the chair, absolutely ran a policy workshop on this very subject.
When?
7th of November.
Yes.
Was I on another planet or something?
Through the chair, I remember.
I might have been on another planet with all the stuff thrown,
at that workshop.
because I don't agree with Deb. So,
As I said, you have an opportunity to put submissions and this comes back.
okay,
Okay.
whatever. Go for it.
Any further discussions? Councillor Taker.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Just a couple of questions for the director. First one, just following on from what Councillor O'Connor was asking about the removal of the recurrent grants, which I understand and agree with. I just want to be clear though, I think there are at least one, maybe several cases where like there's a lease agreement that goes for a number of years. So I'm presuming that those agreements would continue until the end of the lease. And then those recurrent grants would finish after that time. Is that how you would imagine that would work?
Yeah, through the chair, there's some existing MOU or other longer term commitments that we would need to review. Are they in fact donations? Can they be covered under the operational? So we would do a full assessment of those and bring those back to council. Yeah.
And there might need to be some wording change in the policy to make it clear that any existing longer term commitments remain in place until the end of that agreement.
Through the chair, or if they are longer term as part of an operational plan, then there's elements in the 356 that allow for that to happen outside of this program as well.
Right, and my other question was, I know it was probably at that workshop you were just talking about, there was some discussion about how do we go and account for the fact that we are effectively giving donations that are not part of 356. I'm talking about, for example, free use of sporting grounds. And I'm certainly not suggesting that we should be charging, but I think everyone should be acknowledging that we are providing those at no charge. And I'm just wondering if there is some way that the value of those donations can be, allowed for or accounted for at the annual 356 time each year.
Through the chair, one of the big components we discussed at the workshop was those arrangements, and there's some work we need to better report them, and the intention would be to absolutely price and factor in waivers, maintenance commitments, hire fees for all different types of groups, so council have a good understanding of what we are currently providing in that in-kind space. So the reporting council policy procedure would be very different to what we currently do.
Yeah, and that was the point of the question. So even though our actual line item in the budget might say 80,000, but the actual true value, when you take all those other things into account, could be hugely higher than that difference.
And the chair, I anticipate you much further, much north of that.
Yeah, that's right. Okay. Thank you. That was all I had, Mr. Minister.
All right, put the motion, 13.8, all in favour? Unanimous, thank you. 13.9, policy 1101 model code of meeting practice. I think this is going to be deferred because of the paper received from the minister today.
Through the chair, it's been lodged. However, there was further information from the minister today about undertaking a review of the code of meeting practice, and if council want to relook at that, I've had a brief look at it, and there is some substantial changes that has been proposed, and I know that council did undertake a workshop, but it might be worth another.
Councillor Hayden?
Yeah, I think I'd like to put a motion up for this to accept code of meeting practice and get some time frame in around our meetings. And then as we progress through after March next year, we can relook at this down the track. I think we need to get that time frame for our meetings underway because that's listed through this. I know staff has got it listed there for 2:00. I don't think we agreed to 2:00. We need to set a time. We need to get underway and have this in place. Or we revert to operating as we are at the 5:30 and continue on.
So through the chair, if you would defer this,
You're deferring.
you just stick with the status quo.
Yeah, all right.
So if are you proposing the
Look, no, don't worry about it.
I'm proposing an alternate motion that this be deferred until we can further clarify the amendments being proposed by the Minister for Local Government and how they will affect the current code of meeting practice, because I can't, and the reasoning I'm putting this, do I have a second? Because current reasoning is I can't see much choice in actually adopting a code of meeting practice that we know we're going to have to change pretty much immediately. We haven't fully evaluated the changes. We only got it today. So I think on the basis of that, it would be nugatory to approve this.
Just with the chair, the information that you received today was the minister placing it on exhibition, commentary.
That's right.
So to defer it to allow us, I would say it'd be more to defer to allow a submission to be developed by councillors to their position on the new code.
And we don't know how long the minister will take to look at those submissions, because already submissions have been put on the issues he's raised. So the submission period may be short and then it may be implemented. So it may be by March.
So pull the report.
Yeah, that's what we're doing. That's the motion. I think we're all in. So you're all in favour? Unanimous, right, thank you. Are you voting yes?
Yeah, I voted.
Right, I was explaining why. Right, thank you. 1310, Oberon Sports Complex Progress Update. The recommendation is that council note the progress in the report, endorse the consideration of the stage 4 development application for the external services, including the water, fire control systems, electricity and gas connection, and the sewer rising main, and the stage 5 DA, which incorporates car parking, internal roads, and the intersection of O'Connell Road during end of year shutdown 2024 and January 2025 period under staff delegation as outlined in this report. Could I have a motion, please? Councillor Hayden, Councillor McCarthy, thank you.
Happy to move the recommendation as it sits.
So the recommendation is the motion, yes. Councillor McCarthy?
Yes, I'm happy with the report. The only thing I would like to see if the general manager was going to talk to John Borg the other day, that the councillors have a bit of a look over the place before Christmas.
So through the chair, that Jeb's on his job, Thursday is the day if councillors are keen
This Thursday.
to do that, yeah. I was waiting for after the council meeting to in fact have the conversation at a good time should councillors be wanting to do that.
Well, I would talk to it about at the end of the council.
But yeah, it's earmarked for before Christmas, Thursday.
Any further comments? Discussion? Well, I put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. 14, reports for information. 14.1 is the monthly activity report, General Manager, December 2024. Recommendation is the report item 14.1 is received as information. Move it, please. Councillor Hayden. Second, Councillor Dunbar. Thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, thank you for your report. I was a little bit disappointed under the workplace health and safety and risk activities to read that a work staff member was verbally accosted by a member of the public whilst on a roadworks site. Due to the serious nature of threats made towards the staff member, the incident was reported to Oberon Police. That's pretty appalling. I'd like people in Oberon to understand that our work staff go out onto the sites and they do their job. And it's not the communities, the community shouldn't at all go and abuse anybody while they're in their capacity of working. I find that a bit abominable there. That's horrible. Now, the two new staff, so we've had two new staff inducted in the month of November. Could I ask what department they're going into, if I may? I'm just reading the two that states here.
We've got two.
So two new staff were inducted in the month of November.
Okay. The table says there were new employees, 4 employees sufficiently, yeah.
Yeah, but that means they've been inducted right after that.
Mm.
I can take it on notice and provide that back to you.
Oh, okay, cool. So all of our positions that were advertised on Oberon Council website, have they all been filled as yet?
We have actively gone through a recruitment process in the last month. So yeah, I'm not going to say that they've all been filled, but certainly we are looking to
So we should have a number of new staff and that would be good. That is needed, and thank you.
So,
I'm second.
so seconding, yes, sorry.
Yeah, and I have nothing to add, thank you.
So, can I ask you, page 78, about 2/3 of the way down, under communications prepared and released during November 2024 included found cat.
Found cat.
Yes, because there was a two advertised on Facebook page.
So what we do is try and if our ranger these things up, they will put a Facebook post out to see if anyone has lost a cat.
Okay, thank you for clarifying.
Or if they're not found, it's to purchase a cat.
Right, thank you for clarifying that. Any other, did you have a hand up, Councillor Everest, or was that a swipe? No, okay. Right. Any further discussion? Councillor McCarthy.
Yes, through you, Mr Mayor, to the General Manager. The incidents on the topic of number 2 on your report, either of those the trees out again?
Through the chair, I'm happy to take that on, but I have asked for a follow-up on that matter in relation to overhang on Lincoln Road. There was no incident. There was no accident.
I never said there was an accident. All I said that there was a report that the trucks had to get to the centre of the road. And it was reported to the safety officer. Yeah. Well, I asked you was there any action taken? I never indicated there was an incident.
Okay, any further discussion? Shall I put the motion, all in favour? Carried unanimously. We go to 14.2 monthly activity report, planning and development, December 2024. Recommendation is the report item 14.2 as received as information. Councillor Hayden. Councillor Trembar, thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to remove the report, not removing it, okay. Thank you, Damien and your team for all the work in that, I think that's all.
Nothing further to add, thank you for the report.
Further discussion? If not, I put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. 14.3. Monthly activity report, technical services, December 2024. Recommendations of report 14.3 is received information. Can I have a motion, please? Councillor Hayden. Councillor Trembar. Councillor Hayden.
Yes, thanks to our technical services director for this report. And I did want to say this is a really good report. I've got a lot more information that I can get out of this one. It's been expanded on particular things. I do note the installation of the Black Springs water fill station. When will that be connected to the solar panel and ready and operable, do you think?
So the chair, my understanding from field staff was that it was ready to go. We were waiting for the Everfield to commission it.
Okay.
What we offered.
No, I only asked because I seen the cabling all coiled up, not connected as yet, that's all. And one other question, the cages that we approved to put on these water fill stations to cover them from frost and snow and that, when will they all be installed?
So the chair, they are custom made from native size. So we all of them once the pipe work is finished, which is now.
Yeah.
I thought they were being provided the same stages. The rest of it is fine. That's.
They need to be made to be made.
Sorry, councillor Trimmer,
Nothing to add, and thank you for the report.
Any further discussion?
Yes, Mr Mayor, on last Thursday, apparently we had an email from a business in Oberon concerned about the roadway. There was a hole in it, nearly half a metre deep.
Which one was it? Which road?
The street in town here, Ross Street, I think it was. And apparently from Thursday, nothing was done. I approached someone from the engineering staff on Monday and the thing was fixed straight away. And I'd like to convey the thanks to Lauren Jukes for getting the work done. It might have been simultaneously, but this young lass got this thing we talk about, things, accident and exposure. This was a deep hole in the foot, just off the footpath. And this young girl got the work done and I'm very pleased she did. Thank you. We convey our thanks to that girl. Employee, sorry.
So, any further discussion? Just one comment. So in 3, where it says installation of Conwell and Black Springs filtrations were completed apart from the cages.
Yeah, sorry, yes.
Should say apart from the cages which are yet to be installed or something. Okay. Any further discussion? If not, I put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. 13.4 is the monthly activity report, corporate services, November 2024. Recommendation is that report item 14.4 is received as information. Councillor Hayden, seconder please. Councillor Trembath, thank you, Councillor Hayden.
Yes, I'm happy to move this report. Thank you to the Corporate Services Director. Couple of issues down along with Black Springs Hall. I know you've got the quotes for the CCT keyless locks and security screens. Was there any chance that you could check any prices of those brown waffle weave type security screens that I mentioned, apart from the other ones that looked like a jail, that were quite expensive and extensive, that might be a bit more fitting, and I'm just wondering if there's been any further look into that.
You're correct. We are looking at some additional options to the ones that we've been provided to we go a bit more of the look and feel of the hall. So yeah, those will be coming in shortly. The other update is that the NBN installation will go happening, has been confirmed today for the 13th of January. So
they're doing a line NBN connecting from the Telstra.
Through the chair, it's not a Telstra connection that we've got, but that's important for CCTV and the keyless lock. So they should go in shortly after that.
Yeah, very good. So that's going to be awesome having that CCTV footage there, because those break-ins have to stop. I think there's some silly kids out there that are doing some pretty crazy stuff. So that'll be awesome. And yeah, nothing further to add. Thank you.
Nothing further to add. Thank you.
If I could, Director, in relation to that CCTV, I take it in combination with what you're looking at at Black Springs, we're also looking at what we can do remotely for areas such as the reef, and has that progressed at all?
Through the chair, yeah, the reef, that location has a slightly different issue just with the power and connection down there. But we have received quotes for that, and we're just sort of working through how that can be fast tracked as well. So that work is happening in conjunction, as well as the town upgrades, which are booked, and we're just waiting the date that will happen. So
And whatever we do at the reef, I suppose, can also, a similar system can be installed at other remote locations.
Through the chair, that's right. We're looking to bring both Black Springs and the Reef onto our network and then potentially roll that out to other locations should they require it.
Thank you. And this Ready Tech module that you talk about halfway down page 23 for animals' health, local laws and wastewater, can someone explain to me a little bit what additional functionality that provides in those areas? I'm not sure if I looked that way or to the planning director.
This one,
Which way?
this one.
Through the chair, generally those modules are actually providing a module and automation of the processes that generally we're doing quite manually in-house at the moment. So that provides an ecosystem to streamline to that manual handling that we're doing in those modules. So they're part of that stage two that trying to automate some of the things that we're manually doing across the organisation.
To increase its productivity. Thank you. All right. Nothing further. Anyone else got anything? Sorry. But if nothing further, I'll put the recommendation 14.4. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Thank you. 14.5 is the grants update, November 2024. Recommendations of report item 14.5 is received as information. Mover, please. Councillor O'Connor. Seconder, Councillor McCarthy. Thank you, Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I recommend the report.
Thanks. Councillor McCarthy.
It's pretty straightforward.
Thank you. Have we got any further feedback in relation to our, I think it was our sewer, the hockey fields, wasn't it, that we weren't successful in?
Yeah. Through the chair, unfortunately, we were not successful in that application, so we were actively seeking further feedback. But yeah, we were quite disappointed by that one. So.
Okay, so we haven't had any feedback on that yet. Okay. All right. Thank you very much. I noticed that there have been several grant opportunities that have arisen in the last few days for small amounts that have been distributed to community groups. I think. Any further? Sorry, Councillor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yeah, no, I was just talking about the Part B, Crown Lands Improvement Fund application. So the two grants have been put in for there, have they? Separately, of course.
Through the chair, yes, both have been submitted. Yeah. So
awesome. And when was that one meant to be heard back by? March, April next year or something? Is it something like that?
Through the chair, I think it's June, May, June time.
Right. Thank you.
Yep. Any further discussion? Not, I put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. 14.6 is investments report November 2024. The recommendations report item 14.6 is received information. Mover, please. Promotion. Councillor Trembar. Second, Councillor McCarthy.
I'm moving to recommendation.
As per the motion, thank you. Councillor McCarthy.
Straightforward report. Thank you.
Any further discussion? Not, I put the motion. All in favour? Thank you. Carried unanimously. 14.7 is the status update, December 2024. The recommendation is report 14.7 is received as information. Mover, please. Councillor Hayden, seconded. Councillor Olivers, thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, happy to receive this status update. I do note that in the first item, we've still got there's in the status report the land at Glendore Avenue. Hopefully, hey?
That will go. That will go.
It will, because yeah, anyway. Now there was, look, leave it, I'll email. There's a couple of things, but it's not that dramatic.
Councillor Everett.
Nothing more.
Councillor McCarthy, I think you had an issue you raised with me before.
Yes, the report received last month on page 9 of 11. It was in confidential, but I'm happy to read it out.
No, the result of that came out. So yeah.
Yep. So where are we up to?
Can you give me a
What's the oh. You can read the topic. And you can read the record, yeah.
So
So that's a recommendation that's in, and the contract's been signed and the contractor engaged.
Okay,
That's not what,
no, the issue I think is, if I could, yeah,
And it will meet has been proposed to meet the timeline.
okay, now, we all want the same result, but it says there that work will be completed by the end of 24.
That is what we're,
It won't be.
so through the chair, there has been some slippage that's been allowed by the ground authority, and it will be done within that period of time.
Thank you.
so when does the,
It's only slight, it's a slight variation in January and potentially the first week of February. So it is a very slight avenue, but the work needs to be undertaken, and the contract has been developed in that way to help us meet that.
I'm grateful that we get the thing done, don't get me wrong, but I'm also grateful, also know that we could have done this 2 years ago.
okay, so currently it's on schedule to be completed by the first week, the end of January, first week of February.
That'll be interesting. Hasn't started.
Materials been ordered.
Materials is in train.
Okay.
The on ground
Okay,
has been earmarked as a period of time that sits comfortably within what we're.
so I think, all Councillor McCarthy is saying is, can we ensure that we obviously keep it on track, because the grant opportunities, I'm sure you're absolutely aware of that, and just make sure,
Through the chair has made very clear about what opportunity we had in this instance.
yeah, absolutely. You happy?
Yeah.
Thank you.
The other one, the status is where we have for development of the land opposite the skate park. I thought the council made a decision to run it out to a 13-lot subdivision, and I hadn't seen anything. We provided some funds. I thought in the vicinity of $20,000.
Through the chair, there was no funds. It was the DA was created in-house.
Okay.
And the only issue that we had remaining was there may be the need to do some hydraulics given the slope on the land. But that could be done as a condition.
Thought the original one that we provided 20,000 somewhere along the line to start a plan to get it developed.
The plan's already been developed, council.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep.
So when do we go out for expression of interest to get it moved forward so we can develop it?
More than happy to bring a report back to council.
Okay, thank you.
In that space. Currently, we were looking to get
Grant.
get some funds for to progress it, but I'm more than happy to bring it back to.
I realise that, but, and I've had a talk with Councillor McKibben, but everything's going up.
Yeah.
So things like development like that's going up 10% every year. So the longer we delay it, the more it goes up, and if it's anything like the Campbell's River report, it's going up more than 10% a year. So I think we've got to make a decision whether to develop the ground or put it up for someone else.
Can we put in for grant funding for that? Not that specific one that you're meaning, but grant fund to actually build like in the 10 million category, $10 million category, and then do that like we do in sports ground, but do it as units so that we've got.
Campaign we have, we've been applying for every place we can get. That was the idea.
That was the plan. That's the idea to bring it back.
I mean, the issue is if we come forward with this and say, right, we can sell it as is, we can develop it, but we have been looking for grants to see if we can get grants to develop it.
I just
and
haven't
enhance
seen
the
it in the
value. But
green
if we want to sell it as is, we can do that with development consent. We can sell it with development consent. Can't we, gentlemen?
Absolutely.
But Mr Mayor, the discussion around that land was so that we could put some dual units on each block and have it as an income base for this council.
Yeah.
So that was in one of the original discussion points last year, the year before, whenever it was. But I just haven't seen it come through in any grant applications that it's been put through as a grant.
Through the chair, because in that space, it's always been purported that the state, the feds and the state wanted to improve and get housing stocks into the regions. Growing the regions, we did all that sort of stuff, but it wasn't.
So councillor, we've been looking for grant opportunities, but despite what the governments are saying, they're not issuing these grants willy-nilly for regional areas at the moment. So it is fair to say, if you want to, the general manager can come back with a paper next year and say, you got a decision. One, we keep waiting to see what we grants, or we sell as is with the DA approved.
Or
Do you want that
The
to?
view was to actually build it, have it as an investment for the council, so I'm
That's
not
right.
interested in developing to sell, because none of the land's currently selling in the, sorry.
Well, that's what councillor McCarthy is asking. So it may well be that the GM comes back with a brief paper next session and we can have that discussion because there seems to be two different views. All right, anything further on this? Councillor Tucker, thank you.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Just one question. Page 395 and 396 or 15 and 16 of the attachment in relation to Hughes pit. So the latest note says that we're going to let the consent lapse. So I just want to ask again about part 4 of the original resolution, which says to seek advice on whether it contains any usable material, because if it does, the last thing we want to do is let it lapse. We want to renew it. So I do want to make sure that we have done or are going to do an assessment before we let it lapse.
Through the chair, in my conversations with the people who know that pit, they were of the opinion that the pit has run its course. Has no usable. Given the fact that there's 6 months left to run on the consent, if there is product in there that we need, we still have the ability to use it, which is what I was saying in the status report.
So the advice was just people who are familiar with the pit saying they don't think there's anything more there. We haven't actually extended the machine out to dig holes or anything.
No, I haven't done any of that.
Do you think we need to?
Through the chair, given that the resolution was to sell it for $1 and send it back.
That wasn't the resolution, that was the original motion, but the resolution was we do several things in number 4, which was seek advice on whether it contains any usable material.
So once again, my advice was anecdotal locally from our guys.
Yeah, so
more than happy to seek some further advice in that regard.
Yeah, I think this depends on how confident we are that we're not giving, allowing something to lapse if it was to turn out that, there were thousands of metres of good material. That was the point of it.
I'll note that point.
Thank you, that was all, Mr Mayor.
Okay. Any further issues?
Just with that,
Council, yes. Councillor.
keeps going back and forward and wasting our time. I wish someone would go out and have a look, which I think our staff did. But if council's concerned, get in the car and go and have a look. What's there is suitable to revegetate the place. And I think that's what you should do as a good citizen. And the material that's there is what I thought was low quality, and that's why they don't use it. But it's there and it should be used to revegetate the place. I'm sorry, but.
All right, points
I just get.
Right, anything further? If not, I put 14.7, all in favour of the motion? Carried. 14.8 is questions taken on notice at the previous council meeting. Recommendation is report 14.8 to receive this information and the responses noted. Move it, please. Councillor Hayden, seconder. Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I'm happy to move this recommendation. Has council contacted the person that questioned? Thank you.
Councillor McCarthy.
Straightforward, thanks, Mr. Mayor.
So, if I could, down the bottom under the response, a more suitable feasible solution is currently being investigated.
It's been done.
It's been done, but
No, so through the chair, the way that we undertook the work
was expensive.
Was found to be expensive. So we're looking at other ways we can do it.
But the work's done.
Yeah,
that's right.
Yeah.
But we're looking at a better way to do it. If we have to do it again, which we will repetitively, we need to do it in a cost-effective manner.
Through the chair, we might have to look at some process to do that. Well, if council remember, there was a rock wall and they removed it when they got rid of the legacy fund. It doesn't change the fact that there's still something there that we need to look at.
There was no wall there. The concept was wall.
Sorry.
Yes. We
were going.
All right. Any further discussion? If not, put the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. 14.9. Proposed heritage listing of the O'Connell Avenue of trees. Recommendation is report item 14.9 has received information. And mover, please. Councillor O'Connor, Councillor Trevor, Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and I recommend the 14.9 proposed heritage listing, and I commend David, commend the Director of Planning and also Heritage Advisor for good work, giving us a timeline. Thanks very much.
Councillor Trevor.
Nothing further to add, other than thank you for the report.
Anyone else? Not, I put the motion, which is as per the recommendation. All in favour? Carried unanimously. 14.10, Abercrombie Road, Black Springs intersection. Recommendation is the report item 14.10 is received as information. A mover, Councillor Hayden, seconder. Councillor O'Connor, thank you. Councillor Hayden.
Yeah, I'd like to thank the Technical Services Director for the report. I understand, all about bringing a report, but when's it gonna get fixed? That's my concern. It's okay to have these reports about recommendations of what's there and what's gonna happen, but we've seen it, we drive on it, we look at it daily, and, the issue is, when is it gonna get fixed? Have we got the money to fix it? Where are we gonna go?
Well, I think Councillor Hayden on page 111, whatever it is, it talks about the financial implications. It's going to cost 172,000. But I will look from the block grant in 24. So when do we receive the block grant, and when do we anticipate the work being done with that block grant?
Through the chair, I'm happy to confirm when it's scheduled. It will be fitted into the works program, but the block grant is for this financial year.
Yes, and we've received it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've got the money, so we've just got to say when the schedule, when we're going to schedule it. So could you be able to advise us the next meeting?
Yeah, I can, an email.
So we do it in May.
No, that'd be good, as long as it wasn't done in the winter, because see, this is one of the issues that was set down, so that the Little River area was going to be repaired, if you recall. That was the 22-23 recommendation that come forward, then that got changed, and then all of a sudden we see this area at Black Springs getting fixed, and we're like, what the hell's going on there? That's not meant to be done.
And we know there's still problems at Porter's Retreat as well, but this resolution related to the intersection.
That wasn't even scheduled, and it got done at the wrong time. So I really hope it does get done while we've got some of the warmer weather. So.
Okay, Councillor O'Connor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. No, I'd like to amend the report by the Director of Technical Services, and it's very comprehensive and just needs to be done now. Thank you.
Councillor Trevor.
I just want to say this reinforces again what I said earlier, that we need to reinstate looking at getting this road reclassified as a state road. It was something that was undertaken and stopped with the change of government, but it's clear we don't have the money, resources. It's going to kill us basically having to keep repairing this road without funds. So I'd like to see in the new year, I put up a motion that we actually do go for getting this road reclassified, and we also have the stats from the Forestry Hub that it clearly shows how much more additional traffic, heavy traffic, is actually going to be using this road, let alone any of the wind projects. So I think it's very important that we focus on that.
Yes. Points noted, and thank you very much. Any further discussion?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to say that we spent $138,000 out there, and now we're spending $720,000 to repair something that should never have happened.
720.
172, sorry, in the bottom, in the vicinity. But if you have a look at the site, and then you compare that to the site on the O'Connell Road, where the RMS done the work, when you're in a valley or whatever you call it, you take the water further along to relieve it, and you put cement drains in. You know, out there you have a depth like that, a small car would tip over. We have frost and black frost in the winter time. We've just got to change our approach.
I think you'll note, Councillor McCarthy, that on the 1, 2, 3rd page of this report. Beginning with the words construction processes, that has been acknowledged by the Technical Services Director in saying construction processes have now been reviewed. Council procedures have been outlining the need for more formal and appropriate construction plans and introduced geotechnical. So there is an acknowledgement that there's an issue and that the Technical Services Director is on top of it and looking at it. And I think that paragraph is crucial to answering your position. There's an acknowledgement that the work was not done well and that it's being looked at to be rectified. Is that correct, isn't it?
Yeah, through the chair also, that particular issue that you're referencing, that drop off the road where it has washed out is supposed to be rectified with Gabion or prevention of the washout, but also to remove that step.
Look, I understand it's a learning curve here for what's going on, but our council staff that are over at the depot have been doing it for a long time, and this should never have happened.
Absolutely.
It's not someone at the top of the tree get the blame. There's other people in the system that should have pulled this up.
Chair.
Councillor.
Technically,
Yes, sir.
it's not employed at the time, and I find it an insult to say there's a learning.
I know,
I know you didn't mean it,
All right.
but it sounds.
I think if I can, as I said a minute ago, there's an acknowledgement there's been an issue, you know, and that we're learning and there's new training in process, all of that things. And as has been said, current Technical Services Director was not in place at that time. So we move forward and we learn.
unless we get a break in the meantime.
Thank you. Without further ado, I'll put the motion. All in favour? Carried unanimously. Now we only have, there is no urgent business. 16 closed session confidential reports. In accordance with the Local Government Act 1993 and the Local Government General Regulation 2005, in the opinion of the General Manager, the following business of kind is referred to in section 10A2 of the Act, which will be dealt with in part of the meeting closed to the media and public. And there is one item, 16.1, wider right of request assessment 1237065. Can I have someone move us into confidential? Thanks, Councillor Hayden. Seconded.
Yes, seconded.
That's fine. You'll leave as well. Okay. We move into confidential, but can we stop the recording? Could we go? Sorry, Peter, you've got to go.
Okay.
Merry Christmas, everyone. Merry Christmas.
Merry
Councillor Hayden moved us out.
And
Moody.
Kathy.
sorry,
Thank you for back reporting. In the confidential section on 16.1, water write-off request assessment 1237065. The motion was passed that council do not write off the water consumption charges for assessment 1237065, but instead offer a payment arrangement for full cost recovery. Thank you. Thanks. The meeting is closing at 8:32 PM, and I note the next meeting of the council will be held on the 18th of February 2025, commencing at 5:30 PM in this building. And I wish all councillors and staff a very Merry Christmas and Happy New Year. Thank you all for your positive contribution to this council during 2024. For those who've been in the full year and for the new councillors, thank you for your very positive contribution in the last few months since you've been elected. It's been a pleasure working with you. Thank you.